Hello everybody, I'm Danny DeHeck, an investigative journalist based in New Zealand. But today, apparently, you can call me journalist number one. That's how I am identified on page 12 of the CFTC federal complaint against Goliath Ventures and Christopher Delgado. The regulator documented how while Goliath was still operating, I was publicly calling it a Ponzi scheme in September the 9th, 2025. Goliath's lawyers sent me a cease and desist letter insisting the company was legitimate. 3 days later, they sued me for defamation. Well, they say they sued me for defamation, but I didn't get sued. I just got threats and they lodged a lawsuit, so I'm assuming that's why they can say they sued me for defamation. Well, they tried to. Now, the CFTC challenges that the statement used to deny Goliath was a Ponzi scheme were false when they were made. Isn't that cool? But that is only one extraordinary part of what we're going to have a look at today. The SEC now alleges, I don't know what we're using alleges for, Goliath raised, I suppose I'm not exactly sure how much money, $425 million from more than 1,300 investors. Now, even I'm struggling to come up with that figure because we've got mixed findings between the SEC report and the CFTC report. And also, no one really knows exactly the numbers that we've seemed to have got, even though I thought they might have had access to all the client numbers and database by now and been able to give more accurate results. And also, there's some other Danny science in here as well, because we do know that they left a lot of debt. Money in, we've got houses with mortgages on there, we've got vehicles with people owed lots of money and the like. So, okay, so they're calling it a $425 million Ponzi scheme. Anyway, so the CFTC alleges approximately 1,600 people, customers, contributed to $397 million. I think I said that wrong. So what I'm saying is here we've got the SEC are claiming that Christopher Delgado ran a $425 million Ponzi scheme and they had 1,300 investors, while the CFTC, which we had a meeting with, alleged approximately 1,600 customers contributed to $397 million. Regulators say the crypto liquidity pool investors were told they were generating the returns were not being funded as represented. So that they're basically lying. So Jonathan Mason comes to mind. He was telling everyone that he's seen $1 billion inside crypto wallets and the like. Anyway, and then we get to the money trail. So the CFTC alleges approximately $87 million went towards payments to customers. Around about $48 million went towards Christopher Delgado's personal spending. And extraordinary, this is the one that I'm absolutely lapping up, $174 million was transferred to Goliath directors and staff, often as commissions for recruiting customers. So there's half your money has gone to the other co-conspirators. And that is why I started doing the blog that we've done today. And I think this will be one of the most significant blogs that I've seen to go. Good morning, Neville. I hardly recognise you there with your new costume on there. Looking pretty good. So they received, so who was it that received $174 million? Was it Tomo? Was it Jonathan Mason? Was it Alex Bianca, whatever his name is? Was it Mike Shalinsky, if I'm saying his name right? Punic Shaw? All these guys are now crying that they didn't know it was a Ponzi scheme. Oh, crazy. So who received that $174 million is the question. And what were they paid for? Like, why did Christopher think he had to divvy up some of the money? And what were they telling investors? Because they were the ones selling it, right? And as operations began falling apart, what did the people closest to Goliath know? And when did they know it? Because we had this campaign that was going around at the time called Goliath Strong. And these guys were telling other co-conspirators who were trying to leave that I'm going to show you something in a minute, that were trying to leave, that they needed to be strong and loyal to the brotherhood. And we've even had some people like Dante claim that they, where am I trying to think here? Here we go. We even had people like Dante claim that Christopher was like Jesus, and he had his what do you call it, his disciples that were loyal to him no matter what. So I thought that was quite funny. And while we're just going through this introduction, I will finish my introduction before I start flipping screens. So today we're going to go through the federal allegations, follow the money, looking at how Goliath created an appearance of extraordinary success right up until the end. The payment stopped, which stopped, I can't remember when they stopped now. Was it October, November? They were starting to get a bit shady. And for the first time, we can also show you exactly where journalist one fits into the story. So remember, I'm journalist one. But we did have one proof of claim in today, and it's not a laughing matter, but it is. We've got to look something funny at this. So this is a claim and a screenshot that one of my Avengers gave to me, and it says what is the basis of the claim, and it says I was convinced to invest my life savings with Christopher Delgado and Goliath by Jonathan Mason, one of his top liars. Don't you think that's quite sad that somebody has written? Now, I'm not saying it's sad that they've written it. I'm going, good on you guys. Yeah, look at that, Barb. He's got a pretty flash logo. And if you are wondering what we're talking about with logos, Neville's got a suit on today. We're going to actually have a look, go to channel. You need to update that logo with the one I gave you yesterday, mate, because it's not quite the edges. See the edges around the bottom here? See, they need to get them all the same. So I gave you a couple of variants. So you have to go through there and look at them. Haven't got them handy at the moment, but I can get them out to you later on. If you message me on Signal, if you are trying to find me on Signal, deheck.88 is my username for Signal. All right, guys. So this is a big moment for me in a way, because the CFTC, we had a meeting with them. As I said, yesterday we went in there, and I had another one of my Avengers helping us with our investigators at the time, and it was all secret hush-hush stuff. And when I went in there to the CFT meeting, they introduced everybody, and even my top Avenger, I don't even know their real name. And the CFTC introduced us all by our real names, and I thought, oh, you guys are just nuts. I said, it took me 4 years. 4 years they've been hiding their name from me, and you just blurted it out within the first minute of me getting in here. They have no idea how our investigations run and why we try to keep, is it anonymity, whatever it is, something anyway. I want to bring that up. So this is me pointing, and we're talking about the co-conspirators that you can see in the back. We've got all the names quite clearly across the back here. And I've actually identified what a co-conspirator is, because a lot of people are going, well, I didn't recruit. And I go, individuals who contribute to, recruited for, endorsed, promoted, facilitated, or associated themselves with Goliath Ventures in ways that help maintain the appearance of legitimacy and success. So this is what a co-conspirator is. It didn't necessarily have to collect the money, didn't even necessarily to receive funds from recruiting people, but these people associated with Christopher and keep the illusion going and ignored all the warning signs. And they will be the people that actually now say that they are going to hide behind willful blindness, which is absolutely crazy. Hey, nice to see you here, Velvet. So let's get straight into this blog, because it's a goodie, and I am going to read this one because I really want to bring it home. There's a couple of things that we did show that I thought were quite interesting. The other day we did a bit of a video, which if you come back to my YouTube account, you can actually go to the live section. And on the live section, you will find, I think it was quite a big one. I think it was 5 hours in. So it was a 5-hour video. And I think also it might have been people to, is it this one here? Prove that they had the license. Maybe Jesus. Not. No, on that one. Let's find another one. I think it might have been the live section. Wasn't yesterday's. It wasn't now's. It must have been this one here. And it was. So if you went back, this is just ridiculous. I'm not reading the chat because I'm on a rant at the moment. Right. So I did a summary reading. Not only just bought a house, Whether that all married, which I'll stop here, but I don't even know if I put timestamps in it. No, I didn't. I've been totally naughty. But if you want to, what we did is we went through these PDFs that we just received a couple of 3 days ago in depth, and we looked at all the money and we broke it all up, and I gave a pretty good in-depth breakdown of certain things that we had seen going on. Now, one of the most amazing one, we had the messages from, we had Jonathan Mason telling everyone that Tomo was 12 years involved with the police and he was involved in the fraud department. That's all lies. We even had Tomo, we're showing people how Tomo, we warned this policeman here that Tomo's as shady as they come, and they still hosted him at an event, which is absolutely breathtaking. And I'm going to do a blog about this policeman that we wrote to this organization telling them that Tomo was 1 minute being a public speaker at Andrew Tate's events. Next minute, he's at a police event, also doing another event. And we showed video evidence of that. There's Tomo talking at, and so we went through and did a pretty in-depth breakdown. And this was all before we put together the blog for today. Now, today's blog is going to be a little bit more on point and really staying on topic. But if you want to go down for a full breakdown, do check out that video. We do have some music, and I'm going to put that music on for now, just so I can have a drink. And who got the money is the question.
Who got the money? $425 million. More than 1,300 investors. The SEC says it was a Ponzi scheme. The CFTC traced 397 million. And then they found another number. $174 million.
What are you talking about?
Transferred to directors and staff. So now there's only one question. Who got the money? They called it Goliath, said the giant couldn't fall. Crypto liquidity pools were gonna make it all. 3% monthly, 36 a year. Guaranteed principal made the risk disappear. The dashboard showed profits, the statements looked clean. Private jets and supercars completed the dream.
I'm just going to find your logo for you.
In the air, if everybody's getting paid, why would anybody care? But behind every number was a question nobody knew. Were those liquidity pools actually doing what they said they'd do?
No.
Now the SEC says the answer is clear. Not one investor dollar was invested there. The money came in, the payments went out. The lifestyle got bigger while nobody asked how. Who got the money? Where did it go? 425 million, now everybody wants to know. 87 million paying customers, 48 million on the CEO. 174 million to directors and staff. So who got the money? Follow it and we'll know. They weren't selling fear, they were selling trust. Friends brought friends because somebody must have checked the contracts, checked the trades, checked the wallets where the money was supposedly made. Delgado called it Orlando's Cool Kids Club. The influential came around and everybody looked up. Doctors and businessmen, connections and names. Every successful face added fuel to the flames. Directors recruited, commissions were paid, while the appearance of prosperity grew every day. But a commission doesn't prove so.
Isn't that an amazing song, what you can do? Hey, Nev, I just gave you the link in the chat room. And then if you do message us on Signal, I can actually just send you the files rather than trying to get you to download them off there, of course. But yeah, so we're really enjoying those musics at the moment. They are pretty cool. And I'm going to show you something pretty cool just while we've got it here. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see now, if you click on the videos, you'll see that our songs are coming up every day. And we're doing this because we're actually putting them in my podcast, and then the podcast sends them out to 18 different locations. and then we're actually going to get a lot more traffic. So you can actually go to the YouTube channel and you'll see that Danny's gone crazy and posting all the music. So every day I post a new song, and you'll be able to find the song in here, and you'll also be able to find it on my podcast. So if you were on tohick.com, you can actually go to music. No, you can't. Yes, you can. You can go to music, but you can also go to podcast. If you click on podcast, you'll see Show Me the Money, and here's the song, Onyx Reserve, which I'll talk about soon, and then you can see all the different places. So you can literally go to Spotify. If you've got a Garmin watch, you can now download our playlist and listen to our music on your watch where you go out running. It is actually quite good music. If you've been following the scams as much as me, it's real cool. So that's what we're doing here today. And also tomorrow, next Friday, I'm going to be doing a really big investigation. I've already done the blog. I'm actually tweaking it up as we go, but I've done a blog all about Onyx Reserve, because Onyx Reserve, if you don't know, has actually been, I think they're another company which I believe is doing the same as what Goliath is doing. And these two people, they're heavily involved in the company. We've already had CoffeeZilla do a video about them, and I've done a deep research with the Avengers on this, but we never actually published an article with our findings. Now, I'm literally 60 minutes through listening to my own blog, but it's breathtaking to see what claims this company's making. And if you were to line Goliath Ventures and them together, the connection here is Matt Burks. There's Matt Burks, and here's Tommy Shields promoting a Zoom meeting, and here's Matt Burks' operations. And we know that Matt Burks set up Black Block, not to be mistaken with Black Rock. So we've gone through here and we've actually put everything you can think of. Now, when you've gone through us and you've realized these guys, he talks about how he uses lifestyle marketing. I actually managed to find an interview where he talks about the importance of image. And then we've got Tommy here. He's also got the image. And then we've also got the same guy, Matt Block. So it's a massive blog. We're going to do it next Friday. We talk about CoffeeZilla's video. We talk about Matt Burks, who's a parish, would you believe? And he's the one he's definitely going to jail, this guy. When I say definitely, I hope like hell, but there's no reason why he won't go to jail. He's the one that everyone was deceived by. So lots of the good stuff coming up. But in the meantime, this is the other side of what we're doing here. This is when we see governments reporting on the work that we have exposed and done. And as I said, they've mentioned me as journalist number one. I wish they would have used their names. When we did talk to the head investigators, I said, can you please make sure my name's on SEC documents when they can? And they've ignored that and called me journalist number one. But the fact that they call me a journalist is quite neat, but it's really cool. So approximately 1,600 customers contributed to $397 million to the defendant's fraud. Is that right? You contributed at least $397 million to the defendant's fraud. Why does that not sound quite right to me?
Defendants.
Fraud. Okay. Commodities Futures Trading Commission, which is a mouthful to say if you're dyslexic, but otherwise known as the CFTC. And this is what they said on August the 11th. So it is now August the 14th. We've already done a little bit of a story on it, but I wanted to document everything we do and make it an archive. So for almost a year, oh my goodness, for almost a year, we've been reporting, have been following the money behind Goliath Ventures, examining its extraordinary returns, the people who promoted it, the luxury lifestyle surrounding it, and eventually the explanations investors were given to when the money stopped flowing. So that's what we were doing all the way through. So on August the 11th, we can click on that and you can actually see that the Security and Exchange Commission has now filed a complaint about Goliath Ventures and Christopher Delgado. Now, I found that quite interesting. I don't really understand. Maybe Susie can explain it. Hey, Admiral, nice to see you here, Susie. You're awesome. Thank you for the support that you give us. You're always here and you've always got my back, which really, really is an amazing thing. Like, it was one hell of an emotional roller coaster when all this was happening. And I really, to be honest, guys, I was out of my depth. And I had no idea how to respond to a legal threat that was being thrown at me at the time. But to be honest, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But if you ever get yourself in the shit, do not hire a lawyer. Self-represent yourself. It causes you a lot. It gives you a lot of advantages. It makes your heart race a bit more. but it certainly gave me a lot of power to actually be in control of everything that was happening. And it also, how much did it cost me to defend myself against Goliath Ventures? That much. Nothing. Just a whole lot of time and grief and asking people for favors. But that's what happened. So this investigation entered a significant new phrase. The Securities and Exchange Commission, otherwise known as SEC, everyone wants to be in bed with SEC, but these guys certainly are in bed with them now, but not the bed they want to be in. And the Community Futures Trading Commission, as I said, CFTC, filed separate civil enforcement actions against Goliath Ventures and its founder, Christopher Delgado. So that was great. So you can actually go and click on those links if you're on the blog, and you can read what they've actually done on their own website without me copying it into a PDF and hosting it. And that's set in concrete. So when those organizations come after you, that's when you guys really realize you've stuffed up. And there's no more alleging and there's no more speculating, because those companies there, we've got Christopher, who's now agreed to a plea deal. He's admitted guilt and he's about to be sentenced. Now, if you want to support me and the work I do and you want to see me in Orlando, I've got a lot of generous people that keep supporting me. Now, I don't want those people to be the only people that support me. I don't get paid for doing this. It comes at a big personal toll. I have bought my tickets on my credit card to go to Orlando, and I need some help financially to get myself there and pay for accommodation and transportation. Now, getting in an Uber in Florida and going between destination is like a day's wage for me here in New Zealand just to go once. It's so expensive for me. If I receive 60 US dollars, it's equivalent to about 105 New Zealand dollars. So it works both ways. So if I spend $60 in America, it's costing me $105, and it's about the same, living expenses. We don't get discounts here for our food. So what I'm saying, if you want to support me in the work I'm doing, you can see this thing over here. This is my orange thing. Support me. Ko-Fi. If you do it while I'm live, you'll see it pop up with a name. If you put a nice name in there, you can support me anonymously. There's other ways you can support me as well. You can actually join my YouTube channel by clicking join. My website is my everything. That's where I keep all my blogs, my research. My website's protected by Google Project Shield. And I'm here to stay, but I really do need the financial support. And what I would love is to find, sponsors that are in line with what the Avengers are doing at the moment. Some really, really cool stuff that we're working on at the moment that costs us a bit of money, time, and energy to set up. But what we're really doing is we're trying to get people, whistleblowers together, people that will provide us information. One of the things that we're working on at the moment is a Discord server. As I gave you a sneak preview yesterday, we've got Crypto G, who's gave me a sneak preview of something that I'm now giving you a sneak preview. This is Crypto G's page that he set up where we're going to do forensic investigations. We've even posted, previous investigations, just from memory. Boomerang was like, we were watching $250,000 a day disappear in Boomerang, but we did reports and we showed the money flow. Alterum Foundation, we tracked, or I say we're a collective, $31 million in 17 days. We proved that this organization wasn't doing the trading that they were claiming they were doing. In fact, 4 days after my article, and we featured Crypto G's report, they actually claimed they'd been hacked, and now no one's got any money. And it's an exit strategy. 3,000 customers are now up in arms. Well, they had 3,000 people try to access their Zoom meeting and it was overloaded. But everyone's lost their money. We did the report. We proved that they weren't doing what they said they were doing. For us, it wasn't rocket science. We had some really good intel come in and we used it, exploited it, put it out there and publicized it. And that's Crypto G has now published his findings. Same with Goliath Ventures. We're still doing forensic investigations on these guys. It's 250 plus million. What do we get to here? 31 million. Here we couldn't actually put, I don't think we actually put a dollar value on it, but BG Wealth Sharing, in my opinion, is $1 billion scam. Hyperverse Hyperfund is a $1.9 billion scam. This is probably where I'm going to get my totals from. Play Digital claiming that they're raising $100 billion, and they're using that claim to make them sound like something they aren't. And, and we've exposed all these companies. Now, it takes us a lot of time and energy to expose these companies. So when you go to my website and you click on the homepage and it loads, you'll see that I've actually now put some claims to practice. I've now got, scams that we've investigated 300 plus, persons of interest over 1,200 people, scam meetings that we've disrupted over 3,000, easy peasy. We've shut down these meetings where scammers are trying to promote this to mum and dad investors. And I've just put a loose figure here of $3.4 billion fraud exposed. But do check out our website. Is this a scam? If you're looking at something and you're about to invest and you've got your credit card and you're thinking you're going to put your credit card in there and exchange it to some USDT so you can exchange it into some worthless token that you think has got some value to it, reach out to us, ask us that question. You click on that banner. It goes off to my Ko-Fi account. You can employ us to look at something for $150, best money you've ever spent. But all this funding, all this money that you might be asking us is trying to protect you from losing your money, and it also helps support the work that we do. So that's my sales pitch. I hate asking people for money, but I don't know any other way to keep the wolves away from the door other than reminding people that we're not just here for entertainment. We're here to help people who have been scammed. And every day I get another, somebody asking me to help. There he is. Look at that. Nev's finally got me. Oh, look at this, Nev. Hello. Oh, that's good. So that is just amazing. Let's see if I can go hello. There you go, Nev. I got a message back. I'm just trying to think where do I put your logos now? Where did I put them? That's a good question. Oh, I think I've got them. I'm going to shove all your logos. 1 minute. We're going to do this live, Nev. We've never ever connected with Nev, I don't think, anyway, which is so cool. So I'm just going to go downloads, lockdown. There we are. There's all your 3 logos. I'm going to send them through. Now, it's different logos. You've got different borders on them so that you can fit them in. So make sure they look pretty. There you go, Nev. There. That is fantastic. Looking good. Alrighty. So this one here. So to me, this is pretty cool. Oh, there he is, Crypto G. I just showed you from your secret website. That's the new total boards. Excellent. That's quite cool. It's famous. Yeah, so I'm thinking that too, guys. So I didn't really know what figure to put there. So nice to see you here, Crypto G. So I just want to go back to that. Why I didn't see Crypto G in the chat room. There we go, Nev. That's Nev's new picture. Have you seen Nev's new picture, guys? Pretty cool. Did love this one here. I don't know if you were here when I was doing this, Suze, but it says Jonathan Mason, one of his top liars, and that's another $500,000. So there's another one. Just today, another proof of claim that's come in. We've spotted $500,000 somebody invested in Goliath Ventures. And what did they say? Jonathan Mason was the person that invested them into it, one of his top liars. People, at one point they used to think we were the liars. So what have we got here is if we go back to Crypto G, if we added up what you've got here, we've got Goliath Ventures, you've got 250 plus million. So there's at least 400 million. We've got 31 million. So let's just say 450 million. And then you've got Boomerang. Like if we put a total on Boomerang, we were watching $250,000 a day be money laundered through that company, weren't we? And then we've got BG Wealth Sharing. Well, we don't even know if it's $1 billion, but I believe it's $1 billion because of the activity that was around it. MHT Trading, which is a laugh, that was associated with Global Play. So give me a figure because you guys would know better than me. So when we go to here and we look at these figures, exposed, I believe it would be more, but I just don't want to make it look stupid either because we're about exposing people that make false claims. So give me a figure, think about it, and that would be actually cool. The Warden. Yeah, we were going to call him the Warden, but that's what he does. But we've decided to call him Lockdown. Now, if you don't know what he does for a living, it is actually quite funny. I'm going to actually bring this this nice picture onto the screen because I just think we need to show off Nev's. Now, if you do want to become an Avenger and you want to look like Nev, look at that. Isn't that pretty spectacular? You might be able to use this one too, Nev, because it's got a bit of a border around it. So you get the full impact of it all, you know what I'm saying? Let's see if Nev's updated it. Where's Nev? Oh, now Crypto G, what's going on here, mate? I see that you haven't got your uniform on. You've got this. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. The Queen Gambit. You got 2K views for this one. That was good, Crypto G. Look, you got 2,000K views 3 months ago. That is impressive. What else have you got? 1.3. So if you don't know, like really, it makes a huge difference. So if anyone's not subscribed to Crypto G's channel, it's in the chat room now. Go have a look at it. Make sure you subscribe it. Love it. Lockdown. Isn't it awesome? No, I'm really pleased. But we want to build a network of Avengers so that we can, I'm happy to drive the bus. I'm happy to be my name out the front, but we also want to protect people. And we give everyone hidden identities that helps us with our investigations. It's going to be a lot more fun. But anyway, as I was saying before I got really interrupted by myself, separate civil enforcements against Goliath Ventures. So this is amazing. So SEC and the CFTC have put in claims, what are they called? Complaints about Christopher Delgado and Goliath Ventures. The SEC alleges Goliath raised $425 million from more than 1,300 investors throughout a multi-year Ponzi scheme. So we believe it went on for about 3 years. The CFTC puts the figure at least $397 million from approximately 1,600 customers. You think they'd work together, wouldn't you? Do you think they've done their own investigation and haven't discussed over the fence? How's your investigation going? You think they would, wouldn't you? So both regulators allege investors were deceived about a cryptocurrency investment operation that was supposedly generating substantial and consistent returns. I finished off my Onyx Reserve investigation last night, and as I said just a few minutes ago, I've just read it. I've never read anything more truthful and honest in my life. We don't just put this stuff out and hope it's right. Everything makes sense. And it's not even the good thing about being awesome investigators isn't the fact that we make shit up. It's the fact that we go through their own marketing. We go through everything on Instagram. We go through their YouTube accounts. We go through their personal Facebook pages, their LinkedIn accounts. And we go through people's conversations and we find information, we put it together, and it makes perfect sense. And if you wanted to look at a carbon copy of Goliath Ventures, go check out the new article I've just written about the Onyx Reserve. And we've been backed up once again by an independent journalist called CoffeeZilla. And it's just freaking amazing. Nearly swore then. Anyway, but one, what's it say?
Allegation.
One allegation cuts straight through the story investors were sold. The SEC says Goliath did not invest investors' funds or crypto assets into the liquidity pools it claimed were producing the returns. And I've said it many times and I just can't help myself. And I don't know nothing about crypto, not like Crypto G and Susie. If you have not subscribed, do it now. Oh, good stuff. Look at that. Put that on the screen. So I don't know anything about Crypto G, but Crypto G does, and Susie know a lot more about the crypto side of the internet than I do. But one real clever thing that people just don't seem to understand. Now, Christopher was using NLP, and he was basically taking investors' money under the brand Goliath Ventures, moving it over to NLP, which was a Ponzi scheme, and they were claiming that they were doing liquidity pool trading. But Crypto G and Susie looked at it, and they could see that the amount of volume that NLP was doing wasn't generating the liquidity in the trading. So they had the trading, the liquidity they were moving couldn't possibly generate the returns to pay the investors. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like they were telling people that when you fill your car up with petrol, you know that you can travel 500 kilometers, but they were paying out 5,000 kilometers of travel, and it's not mathematically possible. So even if whatever they say they're doing to bring in the money, it can be mathematically worked out. And honestly, 90% of the stuff that we look at, mathematically, it doesn't add up. And that's the simplest thing that we do when we're wondering what we are about to investigate. So even Christopher, claiming that he was a consultant, could have worked that out if he really truly believed that NLP was a legitimate operation. And he failed to do so. Instead, after stopping after 3 months, he carried on taking the money and didn't even bother getting returns. And that's what this investigation is all about. So instead of new complaints being slowly where regulators say hundreds of, instead of new, I'm going to have to read that.
Instead, the new complaints begin showing where regulators say hundreds of millions of dollars actually went.
Yeah, so the regulators are now telling us what happened to the money, well, where it went. Now we've got to figure out who's got the money still. And one figure immediately took my attention, and I think this stopped all of the Avengers until at last they're acknowledging something from other people. Now, there must be new charges coming out, and we are a dog on the bone. We are going through the co-conspirators one bite at a time. Now, this is called Operation Elephant. And how do you eat an elephant? One mouthful at a time. So what we've started to do is go through each of these co-conspirators, and we're actually doing a story on each person and their involvement, because we do not want any stone to be unturned in this investigation. And we're hoping that the government investigators are watching our content, and we are actually seeing signs of it, because journalist number one was me, and I can prove it. The CFTC alleges approximately 174 million of customers' funds were transferred to Goliath directors and staff. Now, we're talking about Alex Bianca, the wanker, sorry. Now, he was a staff member, wasn't he? Because he used to pay all Chris's bill. But anyway, let's just move on from that. Often as commissions for recruiting new customers. This is what the government is saying. By comparison, the CFTC attributes approximately 48 million to Delgado's personal spending. Now, this is batshit crazy, because we worked out that his lifestyle was costing $25 million a year. Now, the fact that they've figured out that $48 million was going for personal spend just for Christopher is actually quite, well, not a modest figure, but at least it's not 328 million. Got me? Anyway, so just before, people were saying, what is a co-conspirator? Now, most people interpret co-conspirators, people that were basically, sitting there beside Christopher saying, oh, what can we do to scam people today? No, I'm saying a co-conspirators are individuals who contribute to, recruited for, endorsed, promoted, facilitated, or associated themselves with Goliath Ventures in ways that help maintain the appearance of legitimacy and success. People that were endorsing bad behavior. In other words, that's what I believe a co-conspirator is. If you click on that image, it will get big and you can have a look at all those people close up. Now, there is more co-conspirators that are not on the list, but remember, we had to start somewhere. And just because you might have referred your best friend into something that you was doing, in my opinion, it's not calling you a co-conspirator. But if you took 5% of your friend's commissions per month, knowing that this was a good thing, maybe that may be something you want to look at with clawbacks, give the money back. If you have, we've got a lot of what we call net winners as well. People that actually invested and made money from Goliath and got out quick thinking they can keep their mouth shut. Those people will have their money clawed back. Anyway, let's carry on. So anyway, let's go down to here. We've got, that doesn't make every director, employer, or recruiter a knowing participant of fraud. Now, you can hide behind willful blindness if you want to, but it comes to a point where you cannot sit there in front of a judge and say that you didn't know that Christopher wasn't, committing fraud, because there is obvious signs. Individuals responsibly, I don't know, that does not make sense. We're going to have to read that bit again too.
Individual responsibility requires individual evidence.
Right, but it does not challenge the idea that Christopher's story begins and ends with Christopher Delgado and his lavish lifestyle. So it wasn't just Chris behind this whole investigation. That's what's really exciting. Delgado had already pleaded guilty. What's Susie's saying down here? Delgado has already pleaded guilty for federal criminal charges. So he's thrown the towel in and said, yep, guilty as charged. Didn't even contest any of it. Accusing arising from the fraud. So and now the SEC and the CFTC are providing much stronger, broader picture of the financial machinery surrounding him. The investors' payments, commissions, recruitment structure, company expenditure and personal spending that allegedly consumed the money investors believe was working hard for them. Isn't that going to be gutting? But after I finished this blog, I got some more stuff. And this is where I got talked about as journalist number one. It's a 26-page complaint, and that was filed by the CFTC. What I'm getting at, they publish these articles on their website. Let's get rid of that one. And then they come out with PDFs to back up what they basically charged. And you can go through and read that 26-page summary. But the only page you really want to read is page number 12, where it talks about this journalist, the journalist number one, which is me. But blurred inside the CFTC's 25-page complaint was something else I wasn't expecting. On page number 12, under a section titled Defendants Attempted to Cover Up Their Fraud by Making Further Misrepresentations, the CFTC describes an unnamed investigative journalist who began publicly alleging by September 2025 that Goliath was a Ponzi scheme. It records how Goliath's attorney sent that journalist a cease and desist letter threatening a defamation lawsuit, followed 13 days by Goliath actually filing one. So they filed a lawsuit against me. Yes, the CFTC then alleges that defendants knew the statements made in those legal communications denied the Ponzi scheme was false. They denied the Ponzi scheme were false when they were made. That does not make sense to Danny. I don't know why I'm reading stuff. It doesn't flow sometimes.
The CFTC then alleges the defendants knew the statements made in those legal communications denying the Ponzi scheme were false when they were made.
We do not normally talk that way, Danny. I'll translate it. Basically, they were denying that they were a Ponzi scheme in those documents. So that was misrepresentation because they obviously knew they were running a Ponzi scheme because they weren't doing the investing they were claimed. So that was quite vindicating for me. So as you know, that investigative journalist was me. Pick me, pick me, pick me. I was raising the questions while Goliath was still operating. Months before Delgado pleaded guilty and almost a year before federal regulators put their allegations back in black and white, I was threatened, then sued, while trying to answer the same fundamental questions that sits at the centre of those new complaints. The question was, where was the money actually going? For months, I've asked that question. These new federal filings are beginning to answer it. From the alleged absence of the promised liquidity pool investments to the money used for investment distributions and Delgado's lifestyle, to the extraordinary, get this, $174 million transferred to directors and staffs. Now, if I was to pick up my calculator here and put in 174 million times 2, that actually equals, I'm no good at doing this, 174 million, I put plus 2, times 2 equals $348 million. So remember how we managed to freeze some bank accounts? Christopher actually had 30 bank accounts. They also managed to track the money that was being moved on some crypto wallets. We still have found $5 million sitting on crypto wallets that aren't doing anything that we believe is linked to Goliath Ventures. Now, all these reports haven't mentioned anything about that, but we had provided the CFTC, if you really want to know, information, and the FBI and Homeland Security and if all that sort of stuff, all those organisations. There were 6 organisations investigating Goliath Ventures when we come along, and just recently in the last 6 weeks, we've provided them evidence of $5 million sitting on crypto. Now, all these reports that have come out, they haven't even mentioned it. But if we doubled the amount of money that Christopher allegedly brought in, which was $328 million at first, and now they're saying it's a $425 million Ponzi scheme, you can just about guarantee that 50% of the money, if not more, was paid out to the promoters and the staff. So when they keep on saying they're researching, what do you think they're researching? They don't need to research Christopher anymore because he's theoretically just handed over everything. He's pleaded guilty. And now we've got proof from the CFTC and the SEC that $174 million has been paid to co-conspirators. That's breathtaking. So now the CFTC complaint has also documented what happened when I started asking those questions publicly. This investigation is no longer simply about where hundreds of millions of dollars went. It's about the people who helped grow Goliath. Well, help Goliath grow. The illusion and grow the illusion that kept investors believing this was true and genuine. And what happened when someone tried to expose it before the whole thing collapsed? Right, so we got two federal regulators. A 400 million plus operation would be safe to say. So on August the 11th, 2026, the SEC and the FTC filed separate civil documents, actions against Goliath Ventures and Christopher Delgado in the U.S. District Court of Middle District in Florida. I still don't really understand why these organizations needed to do that, and maybe somebody could clarify some of that would be really interesting. Are you coming to the sentencing? Yes, I am. I will be there. I have literally bought my tickets. I'm still looking for some funding if anyone wants to help me out. I can't afford to fly around. I don't get paid enough in my profession. But if anyone wants to donate towards my travel to Orlando, if you go to deheck.com, you can actually see on the bottom of my website, you'll see that I've got support me. When you go to support me, you click on that yellow button, the box pops up, and next you can see I'm 19% to my goal. So if you want to donate, and you say if you donated $5, it all helps. I've got a goal of $5,000, which I think I'll need for transport, accommodation, and flights. I'm going to be there for 10 days. If you want to support me, please go and do that link, and you'll see that pop up on the screen in real time. Really appreciate it. Anyway, so what did we get to? So we've got, so as I said, I'm still not really sure why the SEC and the CFTC actually had to charge him, but I wouldn't want to be Christopher, but obviously they can, if they're looking at where the money went as well, co-conspirators should be worried, in my opinion. They are pursuing different, what's that word, validations?
Violations.
Violations under different areas of federal law. But the picture presented by both agencies is remarkably similar. So the first question I saw was I was trying to figure out how come there's a discrepancy between 1,300 investors versus 1,600 investors. And in their investigations, 1,300 investors actually lost $425 million when the 1,600 investors actually lost $397 million. So there's a discrepancy there. And as I said earlier on, wonder if they look over the fence and they go to one government department, how much are you up to at the moment? I don't know how they come up with those numbers to be exact, but hey, look, it's not 100 million, it's not 200 million, it's not 300 million, it's above. So whatever sum is correct, who really knows? One said alleged, which means they are sort of guesstimating to a certain degree. And just a couple of days ago, we just noticed somebody else put a proof of claim in for another $500,000. So it is a figure that's fluctuating on a daily basis. So we don't know whether it was last week's report versus this week's report. The SEC alleges Goliath operated an unregistered security offering and multi-year Ponzi scheme, while the CFTC case focused on fraudulent sophistication. Is that right?
Solicitation
involving digital commodities, including Bitcoin and Ether. Okay, these are civil complaints. So their allegations should be distinguished from matters already established in Delgado's criminal proceedings. So, yes, so I remember the first civil case, I was actually in Florida at the time, and I was in America, and the first civil case come out was with Nick Petrillo. And Nick Petrillo was claiming he was unpaid $40 million plus of royalties that Christopher owed him. And that was his civil complaint. So Nick Petrillo brought in 900 people for Goliath Ventures, and then Christopher was meant to pay him rewards. And he was claiming he was out of pocket $40 million in rewards from Christopher. Crazy. Anyway, I think they used that $40 million lawsuit to make it sound big. And when that was filed, it was only a few days later where Mr. Shaw actually filed a federal case. And the federal case was 2 days after that, and that was when I got back home. Christopher was formally charged, and the federal case lawyer talked to me on the phone and said to me he reckoned that he was responsible for the government actually acting. How can the private sector be accusing somebody of fraud if the government hasn't been? Maybe that's why Christopher got charged. Who knows the exact truth and how it worked? They didn't tell me everything. In fact, they got pretty to the point now where they ghost me because they're worried about discovery. Anyway, but we don't need to worry about discovery now. Hopefully I can meet up with the boys in New Jersey that started this investigation. I would actually like to go visit them and shake their hands and maybe go out for a beer together, because I'm sure we'd have some great stories to tell. That's why I want to go to America, not just to see Christopher being sentenced, but because I also want to tee up interviews with reporters, and I have a few other loose ends which I can't tell you about that I need to finish. All right, so that immediately stands out. What immediately stands out is how much the estimated scale of Goliath has grown. So we've gone from 328 million, I'll read this rather than making up Danny's version. When federal prosecutors originally charged Delgado, the figure that dominated the case was approximately 328 million. How do they get to that? Well, the CFTC now alleges 397 million and approximately 1,600 customers. We believe it's actually more than that. We believe it's 2,000. Whether people are registered as a company and themselves may be the reason we say that. But hey, let's just go with the 1,600. It's still a lot of people. While the SEC alleges at least 425 million from more than 1,300 investors. Now, look, if we knew that the minimum, if we went minimum was times 100, so that's 13, is that right? Is that 130 million if the minimum was $100,000? We know that there were some investors who were only invested with $40,000, and then they were squeezed to top it up to $100,000 because they wanted to become, what do they call them, investors? Something investors. Anyway, I'm getting off track a wee bit here, but they wanted to squeeze people up to the minimum investment of $100,000. So people were pooling their money together to get up to the threshold so they could become something investors. What do they call them? Accredited investor, which is complicated. And that's why they were trying to do the paperwork for the 506B or C documents. I'm not going to go down that track. Okay, so those figures don't necessarily contradict one another. Each agency is examining different conduct, transactions, and legal violations over potentially different periods. I don't think it would be responsible simply to select the largest number and pretend every government agency has reacted exactly the same calculation. So what we're saying, the discrepancies is just between government departments. Who knows why that discrepancy is really there, but we can only assume because they investigate different parts of fraud. What we can say is the federal authorities are now describing what looks to be a 400 million plus operation. That scale is extraordinary when compared to Goliath's beginning. During the post-arrest interview with FW investigator reporter Darlene Jones, Delgado described expecting to finish Goliath's first year with around 1 million under management. Instead, he said the company attracted more than 5 million within the first 2 or 3 months. So I don't know if you remember that when Darlene Jones was interviewing Chris, he was hoping to get $1 million under his belt, and they actually managed to get $5 million worth of investment. I think that's when they realized they had the formula right where they could keep promoting this to friends and families, their private network of investors, describing its subsequent growth as a rocket ship. So there we go. Look how it grew. The rapid expansion is important because Goliath didn't reach hundreds of millions of dollars through Christopher Delgado alone. And this is really important. As we will see, the company developed a powerful recruitment structure that financially rewarded people for bringing additional investors and capital into the operation. Now, I'm talking here off script a lot of the times, and then I realize I'm repeating myself. So my apologies. But think about this. They have identified $174 million that has been paid to recruiters, co-conspirators. So the fact that they've noticed that, I don't think these guys are going to get away with it. We're all hoping any day now that somebody else is going to be charged. I believe it will be Nick Petrillo, Matt Burks, Jonathan Mason's already been investigated by the Alberta Security Commission. We know that for a fact. And there's other people like Punit Shaw, who's recruited 500 people into it. He had 7% club. You've got people like Mike Shalinsky. I can't know if I'm saying that right, but he recruited. We know we've got facts and evidence of $35 million that he's recruited. He's now living in Dubai, even though he's visiting Bali. I don't know if he's still there at the moment. Anyway, we're going to do a whole thing on Mike again because we're going to expose his trading scam. We've got evidence to prove that his trading techniques are old-fashioned, and we're going to go through that. Apparently, his trading techniques worked in 2005. They don't actually work now, but he's pretending he's a day trader and he's trying to sell educational packages. But let's not go there now. But before following these commissions, there were more fundamental questions. What did investors believe Goliath actually was doing with the money? So just think about this. You're going to sit here and say to the world, hey, look, guys, we didn't know it was a Ponzi scheme. But what did they actually think Christopher was doing with the money? Christopher was drinking more wine and alcohol than anyone else. He was partying up all the time. We never saw Christopher working. We never saw anyone except Nadia bring us handing the money. The liquidity pools that alleged, oh, sorry, I haven't been scrolling through the messages. So if you have been posting in the chat box, please keep it up because they are really interesting. And I have been going through. Nice, I'm coming to the US. That sounds more like a threat with our previous conversations here, mate. I will have protection. So in case you're wondering, and I will be pretty stealthy while I'm there. It is actually a big risk for me to go to the US because we don't have guns in New Zealand. In saying that, though, but just so happens I had one today. But anyway, that's just a wee pistol. But I don't think I'll be able to bring that into America. Anyway, in case you're wondering, that is actually a BB gun. Okay, liquidity pools that allege that never existed. Now, this is major because if these promoters actually think Christopher had liquidity pools, if they are alleging they were business people and they knew all about finance, they're claiming they were, like I always say to people, if you're not a regulated financial advisor, what are you doing telling people what to do with their money? And if these people are claiming they were somebody of brilliance, then liquidity pools that allegedly never existed. At the center of Goliath Ventures' pitch was a relatively simple explanation for some extraordinary returns. Okay, investors' money would be placed in crypto liquidity pools, generating fees from trading activity. Well, as I said earlier on today, NLP wasn't doing the volume to generate the returns they were paying people. And you could have actually said there was no proof of Goliath ever doing it. And the fact that they were white labeling another Ponzi scheme or scam is absolutely incredible. So according to SEC, investors were promised monthly profits distributions ranging from, and we've said 3 to 8, but they're actually saying 3 to 10%, depending on their arrangements, together with the return of their principal. Goliath presented itself as having the expertise and the infrastructure to make those returns possible through decentralized finance. Now think about that. And next Friday or next Thursday night for you guys, I'm going to be showing you another company that also claims they're doing the same thing, but theirs is 3 to 7% per month. And they were claiming that they are giving people over 100% return within 12 months. Batshit crazy, but that's the Onyx Reserve. I just finished the blog yesterday and pressed go. So it'll be interesting to see what feedback we get from those boys, and I'll tell you more about that next week. Goliath presented itself as having expertise and infrastructure to make those returns possible. So Christopher Delgado gave, was it versions of the explanation himself during his interviews and post interviews with FWTV. Now, if you don't know what I'm doing there, what we've got there, we actually did do a whole series of all the videos that Christopher did with Darlene Jones. Now, Darlene Jones, she's lovely. She put all those videos on the internet and then they took them all off. So we actually managed to grab all those videos. Thank you, Bloomberg, for keeping those for us. Part 1 We went through, we showed you pictures of Nick Petrillo and Christopher. This is when they claimed that they were going to do crypto mining. It was a demo. I know all about it. I'm not going to go there a track, but they weren't doing any crypto mining. But each of those 5 videos, we actually had 5 hours, 55 minutes, or actually 5 hours, 40 minutes worth of videos of Christopher. Each of those videos are broken down. They removed them, and since then, they've put them back. This is Jay Newton. He's Canadian. He's currently being investigated by Alberta Security Commission. We've actually got tracking of crypto wallet addresses from Tomo at the moment, and we can see hundreds of thousands of dollars are being moved through his wallet addresses, which is quite exciting. We've got people like Steve Davis, who has spent $50,000 trying to set up his own company and failed miserably. And at the moment, they're trying to sue a young couple that was partners with that business. They've got themselves out of it. Now he's trying to sue them for $150,000, claiming torturous interference, whatever it is. And it just goes on and on and on. So these are all, Jay Newton, is the guy that we're talking about here. So then we've got, a lot of evidence of these people all getting together. Michael Shalunsky, Steve Davis, obviously, and David Panzak, Michael Hernandez, Nick Petrillo, Tomo, and then we've got Alex. So all these people have been co-conspirators at the start, and that's how Goliath got to the stage where it was. But we went through there. We even talk about, look, we do have Mark in here. Mark sold his building to Christopher, and that's how we use these charities to gain notoriety, and that's how this company, how this grew so much. So you can go there and read the interviews with WFTV. Investigator Darlene Jones, who says that I'm not a real reporter, but she reports, she's a news reader, so she reads the news after it comes through the courts. We're actually at the top of the cliff trying to save people from going over the cliff. So that's the difference between an investigative reporter and a news reader. So I'll give Darlene Jones, I don't think she's qualified to give those interviews, and now we can see the truth coming out with these court documents. We don't see her reporting on the SEC findings or the CFTC findings, which is really unusual because she likes reading documents that have come through the court system. But we are, this is my baby, and she wants to pretend that she broke the story. She's broke the story 6 months too old. If she was doing what we were doing, she would have stopped them in their tracks like we did. We actually had bank accounts frozen, Bank of America account that had $18 million in it. This is what we did. We're not reading to you yesterday's newspaper. Anyway, let's stop digging at Darlene. I'm sure she's a very good news reader. He described Goliath initially working with another operation called NLP, one of my liquidity partners, before attempting to develop his own liquidity pool technology. So he didn't even have anything. He was attempting to copy a Ponzi scheme that couldn't even do what they claimed they were doing. He spoke about developers. They even spoke about spending $50 million at one point trying to set up his own liquidity pool. Shit, it was just stupid. He spoke about developers, trips to Dubai, beta testing, and money being spent building products that he said would eventually allow Goliath Ventures to control the investment process. So he was basically, in those interviews he had with Darlene Jones, if you watch all of them like I had to, he's basically saying that he was just about there. He was a failed businessman, but the whole concept of what he was even trying to develop wouldn't have generated the returns that they were claiming they were going to pay people. The 3 to 10% per month. It was 10% per month. The 3% is if you're at the bottom of the pyramid. The 10% is what he was paying out per month. Now, 10 months later, you run out of money because you're doubling in 12 months. I think it's 63% or something stupid. If you work out what most people were getting, it doesn't add up because he had to pay out 10%. So Christopher said that he had to come up with $3.5 million per month because that was the bleed rate. He also said that when they shut the Bank of America account down, they had $18 million left in the bank account. And that was how he was trying to keep this monster alive. He also said that on the 1st of September, the first article dropped. Well, I was the first person that dropped the article, Darlene. So give me some credit with credit due. Maybe you want to interview me when I'm in America. That would be funny, wouldn't it? Anyway, newsreader, definitely. But the news federal complaint cut directly through the explanation. Didn't read to listen to all the bullshit. Anyway, SEC urges Goliath did not invest any any investor funds or crypto assets into crypto assets liquidity pools. Not any. No, it didn't. Because even NLP wasn't doing what they claimed, even though Christopher thought that was real. The CFTC similarly alleges the company misappropriated customers' funds rather than using them for crypto trading activity customers had been promised. So that's a critical distinction. Regulators aren't alleging that Christopher successfully operated liquidity pools for several years before making disastrous investment decisions. Nor were they simply alleging that a genuine crypto strategy failed to produce the promised returns. Now, this is everything. I'm all over this, guys, because what I'm saying is, in these videos where we saw Christopher talking to Darlene Jones, he was alleging that he was a failed business. And I don't believe she asked him the hard questions. It was bullshit. I mean, she even insinuated that he might get $1 million for a yellow Lamborghini Hurricane, where Christopher paid $600,000 for it and spent another $300,000 putting a Terminator body kit on it. So that means he spent $900,000. And she didn't even ask him once how much equity was left in that car. And since then, they've now sold that car for $625,000. That means they had a loss of $275,000 from one car. And I think they got $19,000 back from that one car. All the cars, there's 12 cars that she was walking around asking him, oh, what was parked in that garage? And what was parked in that garage? And what was parked in that garage? And Christopher didn't say, oh, by the way, there's no money left in these cars. There's no equity left. And the house that he's walking around, the $8.5 million house, well, he paid cash for that house. But all the other 8 properties, oh, no, he actually paid $300.2 for the office blocks in Orange Avenue, 189C, Orange Avenue. How do I know that address? Because I've been in that building, Chris. Anyway, what I'm getting at is that out of all the properties and out of all the cars, there was no equity. And that would have been a great question to ask from a company that was hocking up everything that was buying to keep that lifestyle marketing going. And we've got an amazing story coming out next week this time about Onyx Reserve, who are doing the same activities that Goliath is doing. And no one's asking them those questions at the top of the cliff. Prove that you're doing these too good to be true investment opportunities. Nor are they simply alleging that the genuine crypto strategy failed. So it didn't fail, it was straight fraud. Always said that. They are alleging that the investment activity presented to investors as the source of those returns wasn't taking place as represented. Delgado supposedly described attempts to develop technology that he believed could rescue Goliath, even claiming that testing at one stage, we'll have a look at that. One stage generates up to, even claiming that testing at one stage generated returns of 30 to 40%. So Christopher, even though he has admitted that he's committed fraud, begging everyone to give him an opportunity to trade their way out of the disaster he got them into, was claiming that the beta testing software that they were developing had actually generated 30 to 40% return for investors. Why would they give him airtime to make that unsubstantiated claim up? But developing software is not the same thing as demonstrating that hundreds of millions of dollars of investors' capitals were actually deployed into an operational liquidity pool, generating the distributions investors were receiving. That's why that was always the question I wanted answered. Where were the independently verifiable sorry, I'm not going to say that right. We better have a breather. Let's read this.
Where were the independently verifiable assets?
Yeah, so where was the assets they were claiming they had? Where were the transactions showing investor capital entered into liquidity pools? We couldn't find it. I sat there with CoffeeZilla, and CoffeeZilla said to me at one point when we were looking at that video, he showed to me
big problems.
Geez, Coffee, don't tell me you brought a lawsuit into...
So this is, and I'm going, they pay for this. It's common. It's sponsored advert. No interviewer, no name. And the funniest one, well, it wasn't funny, but they said, but they are part of
they're invested with BlackRock.
Let's see
And
what
I
I
go,
can
no,
find.
it's Black. And I said, go to my
Yeah,
Black.
here. So this is the part where he showed me.
That's a graph of a Ponzi scheme. That's just brilliant. So that's fantastic. So that's great. I mean, that there is that's just everything they've said has just been just undone very simply, which is it's actually quite disturbing. That.
Why do you say that?
Well, they've just lied to everybody. They've just said that they were doing something, and I'm not crypto clever, and all of a sudden they've been telling everyone they've been doing pancake swaps, and somebody told me to say, oh well, it doesn't make enough money to do the type of liquidity they are doing, and here we are. We've just got a graph in front of us here where it just shows there's no trading. It's a straight Ponzi scheme right here.
So that was 4, 5, 6 months ago. I was with CoffeeZilla face to face with him, and now we've got the actual documents coming out. They were doing no trading. There was nothing being deployed onto my liquidity pools, and this is backing up everything that us independent investigative journalists actually review. So, and there was, and where was the trading activity capable of consistently producing returns as advertised? So not crypto G, what's his name? Stephen CoffeeZilla. He basically proved to us. That nothing was visible. I think he found $19,000 actually that had been in liquidity pools. So that's all he could find. So that might have been the money that Christopher theoretically was testing with. Who knows? Federal regulators are now offering their answer. If the money wasn't generating those returns through the investment strategies investors have been sold, then we need to look at what was actually generating the payments they received. And this is where the biggest question I've always wanted to answer: where is the money going? Where the money actually went? Are you ready for it, ladies and gentlemen? Once the liquidity pool story is stripped away, the question that is straightforward: what did regulators say happened to the money instead? So what are the regulators actually saying? According to the SEC, approximately $281 million was used to make purported monthly profit distributed to investors. In other words, the payments people were receiving were allegedly funded with money coming in from other investors rather than profits generated from crypto trading. So the money was coming from new investors. It's called a Ponzi scheme. New investors pay old investors. Old investors keep talking about how wonderful it is. As long as you keep those old investors happy and they keep talking about it, the new investors keep coming in until you run out of, unfortunately, people who don't do proper due diligence. And that's why we're here. We're here to help you. We do work for the victims. I don't like calling people stupid who investigate in these things, because your mate did it and his mate did it and everyone's doing it. You're going to do it as well. That's how they work. That's how they get you. That helps explain why Goliath could look legitimate for so long. Investors were receiving real money. They could show those people those payments to friends and family. Some reinvested. Others introduced new people. The payments themselves become evidence in the minds of investors that was the underlying strategy must be working, so they don't question it. Now, one individual, I'm going to tell you, I haven't mentioned this figure before, invested $9 million into Christopher Delgado. He took everything, his whole life savings, all his family money, and put it into Goliath Ventures. He was receiving per month $500,000. He was reinvesting $250,000 into Christopher Delgado's Goliath Ventures and using the other $250,000 to pay his staff wages. When Christopher fell over, he couldn't afford to keep paying his staff wages. Yeah, no doubt he just started with a simple Novacast TV subscription and then got a taste of how this alleged scheme worked, and then later invested all that money. Lost $9 million to Christopher. So if you watch those interviews with Christopher, he talked about a guy in New York. Well, that was the guy that I've been talking to. He tricked Chris into thinking that if he could get his $9 million back, he would restructure his business and then reinvest $50 million. Christopher was hoping that he was going to receive $50 million. And the $50 million was also going to lead to another corporate that could potentially invest $200 million. All that was smoke and mirrors to convince Christopher into releasing his $9 million. And we were privy to that as it was happening. The guy never got his $9 million, nor did Christopher get his $50 million, and the $200 million that he thought was around the corner also was all fabricated lies to trick Christopher into releasing the money. Now, we froze $18 million through I can't personally freeze money, but we had the people in the Bank of America. We showed them the transaction, a guy that invested, I think around about the 6th of September, maybe the 17th. He invested after we started reporting. We started producing content on the internet on the 3rd of September. So once that happened, we had a new investor who just managed to stumble across our videos and then realized it was a scam. He gave us a payment slip, and we used that payment slip. We gave it to the people in the Bank of America, and they froze $18 million worth. So all that there, we didn't know all the figures, but that's what happened. And that crippled the payments for Goliath Ventures, and it brought this to an end sooner. If we didn't do that, what would have happened? Well, it could have gone on for a few more months. A few other investors could have invested, and it just would have prolonged the agony. Anyway, the SEC also alleged approximately $53 million was used by Goliath's business for operational expenses, including private flights, promotional events, office costs, charitable donations, and credit card spending. I'd hate to think. Separately, the SEC alleged Delgado misappropriated at least $51 million for personal use. So there's Christopher pissing up money at nightclubs. But even Harry J. Samuels, his bookkeeper, the guy that was the registered agent for all the LLC companies that he set up in Florida and also Wyoming, has been telling Christopher to put things through the business, like the cars. So Christopher's personal spend was different to the company spend, but the company was responsible for a lot of the vehicles and houses that we saw inside the Christopher Delgado or the Goliath Ventures estate. Quite interesting when you follow it and watch it unravel. And also I get a lot of insider information through my Avengers, through me, and anyone that helps fight these fraudsters. So the CFTC reaches some different figures, but describe the same overall pattern. It alleges that approximately $87 million was used to make payments to other customers, and approximately $48 million went towards Delgado's personal spend. Now, we'd already figured out that Delgado must be spending about $25 million a year. And if you get your calculator out and you work out that if somebody's not spending the incoming money and he's spending $25 million a year, Christopher himself must have at least invested $200 million of his own money into Goliath to get the returns that he was spending. And that's how we figured out that Christopher was spending far too much money. But then when we found out that his cars were put on leased, it's even worse than that. Because even if Christopher had access to $50 million, he was actually hocking up more debt. So it got even worse. I don't think those figures should be mixed together, as though the agencies are measuring exactly. Sorry, that's not right. I don't think those figures should be mixed together, as though the agencies are measuring exactly the same transactions. What matters is that both regulators described investors' money being used to sustain the operation rather than being used to deploy as represented. So they weren't doing what they said with the money is the main takeaway that we need to take away, not the actual figures. And it's hard for all of us to comprehend, as much as I like to say to people, look, wonder what they were doing with the money. Oh, we already looked at Chris and we thought he was spending $25 million on personal spend, and now he's spent $51 million. It doesn't really matter. It's the fact is he was spending money on his lifestyle marketing rather than doing what he was allegedly doing with the money. Whether it's $1 or whether it's $500 million, it doesn't really matter. It's the fact is he was committing fraud. And when there is figures that changes the focus, and then there is the figure that changes the focus of the investigation. And this is the big part. The CFTC alleged approximately $174 million was transferred to Goliath directors and staff, often as commissions for recruiting new customers. All good Ponzi schemes come with a multi-level marketing part behind it, and there was. That is more than a side issue. If that figure is correct, it means a huge amount of the money was flowing through the recruitment and staffing structure that helped Goliath grow. That's why it's like putting petrol on a fire. The next question is no longer simply how much Christopher Delgado spent. It was who received the $174 million. Tomo, we believe, was receiving $500,000 a month for commissions for promoting and endorsing Goliath Ventures. So, how many contracts have we seen come in with Tomo's name on it? Well, maybe not as many as we may like to see. However, he endorsed Christopher. He got Steve Davis. He got Steve Panzak. He got Mike Shalinsky, whatever his name is. And he got them together. He may have been the promoter. Next minute we see, Tomo on a boat with Andrew Tate, for God's sake. Christopher on a boat with Andrew Tate. Mike Shalinsky on a boat with Andrew Tate. Here they are hanging out with some of the biggest questionable persons on the internet. It's disgusting. So anyway, who received the $174 million is the question, and what role they played in bringing new money into Goliath. Here we go again. The US $174 million director and staff question. Of all the figures in the new CFTC complaint, the US $174 million is the one that most dramatically broadens the Goliath story behind Christopher Delgado. If the CFT alleges approximately $174 million of customers' funds were transferred to Goliath directors and staff, often as commissions for recruiting new customers. Think about that. Now, let's just say there's $174 million that can be clawed back. Is that going to be clawed back? Let's carry on. That does not mean that every person who received money knowingly participated in fraud. Now, think about this, and it's probably going to say it, but I want to say it personally, is some of that money, this is not the money given to charities, but if the charities that have received funds now have that money clawed back, then why wouldn't the $174 million from co-conspirators be clawed back as well? And if that money's gone, then those guys that took that money will be forced to pay that back at $5 a week for the rest of their life, and they'll probably have everything they do in business tarnished by their association with Goliath Ventures. In other words, their lives are fucked. And we're not going to sleep until we see everyone that's helped grow a Goliath is held liable and have their money clawed back. So if you've taken money from Goliath, you will be found and you will be exposed and you will be ordered by the courts to pay back that money. Now, you can hide behind willful blindness if you want, but I don't think it's going to cut the mustard. Let's go. Rightio. Individual payments, roles, knowledge still need to be established from underlying records. So there's not just a big pile of money sitting out there waiting to be divvied up. It's already been divvied up and those people have already put it into their lifestyles. But the SEC independently describes the recruitment structure that helped explain how the money could have flowed. According to the complaint, directors and partner services acted as sales agents. They solicited investors. Now, I heard that at London Club that Christopher was working with the general manager, and he was organising people to come in for private dinners. They were getting these guys loaded up with alcohol. They had contracts prepared, and they had people signing up contracts at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning. And that was happening in London Club, so our sources says. Now, I've got insiders there telling me this information. They witnessed this type of activity going on. So these people, these partners that were at these dinners with Christopher's in London Club will be held accountable for promoting and endorsing Christopher. That's part of the circle. Distributed, so I'm going to solicit investors, distributed Goliath's marketing material and joint venture agreement, helped with onboarding and facilitated the transfer of investors' funds. All these contracts that we're seeing being submitted as proof of claims, they have co-conspirators' names on the bottom of it. Even today, I showed you a screenshot of one of those ones with saying that Jonathan Mason was one of the biggest liars, and he was the person that they signed up under. So it didn't have Christopher's name on all these contracts. had the co-conspirators. I think I've made that clear point. Investors' funds into the company, their compensation was tied to the amount of capital they helped bring in. That structure mattered because it's just like it's literally like thievery, isn't it? It's like bringing a stolen car to a guy that's going to chop it up and then, put new VIN numbers on it. That's what these guys are doing. They were taking the stolen funds and putting it in their back pocket. They were signing the contracts, getting the rewards, and then now they're going to hide behind willful blindness. Doubt it very much. That structure matters because trust was being transferred through personal relationships. They always want you to recruit your friends and family. Look at the way they went through the medical people. Look at the way they went through the firemen. Look at the way they went through all the networks they were trying to. They found communities. The Indian Chamber of Commerce comes to mind. They gave money to the Orlando Economic Partnership, $200,000 so they could have a prominent place on their websites to endorse Christopher Delgado. That's why they returned $190,000 with that money. A prospective investor might not know Christopher Delgado personally, but they might know the doctor, the business owner, or friend introducing them to Goliath. If that person was already receiving regular distributions and appeared confident in the opportunity, the investment could feel sustainably safer than it actually was. So it's endorsing bad behavior. Delgado's own post-arrest interviews provided some context on how lucrative that network could become. He claimed Nick Petrillo had brought in more than $200 million. He claimed that Nick Petrillo had brought in more than $200 million into Goliath and hundreds of partners, and described Petrillo receiving an override across the funds that could amount to millions of dollars per month. Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. Now, when Nick Petrillo puts in a claim that he hasn't received $40 million from Christopher Delgado, what do you think he's doing that for? To prove that he never got paid? Here's Nick Petrillo living in an $8.5 million house. How much is his mortgage, you might be thinking? $5 million a month mortgage. What do you think Nick Petrillo is trying to do right now? His wife has given birth to his third child just recently. Nick Petrillo had a mistress for 2 to 3 years? Yep, that's what we found out. And quite handy to know that, isn't it? Those are Delgado's claims, not independent filings by SEC or CFTC, so they need to be treated accordingly. But they illustrate why following the commission trail is so important. So a lot of the stuff that we are repeating right now has actually come out of Chris's mouth directly. Now, whether you can trust the interviews that were broadcasted on national TV or local TV if you're in Orlando, I don't believe he should have been given a microphone. I don't believe he should have had a voice. Now, mark my words here. Christopher has not been seen anywhere on any camera for at least 3 or 4 weeks. I believe, with my hand on my heart, that Christopher is already incarcerated. We've had no sightings, no intel about Christopher sitting outside collecting golf balls that have been striked into his property, well, in his old property, since for at least 3 or 4 weeks. So if you've seen any sightings or any news on Christopher's location or where he is, I believe he's already under lock and key. Prove me wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but there's no proof he's not already in jail. We've got videos of his girlfriend who's living in the house, but we have not seen one little bit of evidence that Christopher is not out and about. He may be under protective custody because some people are threatening to do grievous bodily harm to him, and he may be fearful for his life. Can you imagine going to jail as Christopher and telling people that you're facing up to a 50-year prison sentence, but you're working with the Department of Justice at the moment by dobbing in people? The majority of people that are in prisons at the moment have been there because people have dobbed in them. Do you think that's going to help Christopher's life sentence when he talks to his cellmates who know that he was trying to lessen his sentence by dobbing in his friends that were, doesn't look good, Chris. The useful questions are not simply whether someone received money from Goliath. The useful questions are, how much did they receive? How much capital did they introduce? And what were they telling investors? And what did they know as the company began to unravel? Like, when did they stop? It's all very well. Like, we was talking to Dante the other day. Dante. I call him Dante up, da-dum. Anyway, Dante the other day, and he said that he went a week before Christopher handed himself in, he went to Mardi Gras. Christopher drove to Mardi Gras in his Rolls Royce Ghost, and on the way home, he hit a curve, so we believe, and damaged the wheel, and the vehicle was left in South Carolina. Now, Dante said that he went to Mardi Gras because he was concerned about his investment, so he thought he'd smooze and party up with Christopher. That's his story. He was associating with Christopher right to the end, hoping that his investment was safe. He didn't read the warnings, did he? No, he assumed that Christopher was potentially still legit, and then it dawned on him that Christopher was fake, and that's when he started to worry about his investment. 1 week before he fell over, or he was admitted or handed himself in. He'd already been providing, all their bank records had been subpoenaed. Christopher claims that he was already providing intel to the government. He went to Dubai, and he was fearful that he was going to be left in Dubai, and begged the American government to bring him back to the US to serve his time. He'd already had a joyride to Thailand and spent $150,000 like you needed to, just before he went to his $9 million Christmas party. This guy shouldn't have been given any airtime on the internet. Not the internet, or on YouTube. Or he shouldn't have been on FWTV. It's absolutely batshit shit crazy that they thought it was a good idea to go in there to let Christopher tell everyone what he wants them to believe. Christopher was trying to control the narrative, and he got that moment. I think it's disgusting, and I think that's an insult to all the investors that Christopher got to speak. That is where the 174 million figures becomes more of a headline number. It becomes a roadmap for the next stage of the investigation. And the next stage of the investigation is this: how Goliath created the appearance of success. Goliath Ventures did not rely on one source of credibility. It built an environment in which multiple signals of success reinforce one another. It is like a chain, and the links are strong. There were private flights, luxury vehicles, expensive events, impressive office, charitable sponsorships. Investors could see money being spent at scale that suggested the company was thriving. According to the SEC, however, apparently 53 million of investors' funds was used for the business and operational expenses. That included more than 12.5 million on private flights, around 21 million on promotional events related to travel, approximately 3 million on office property renovations. So the offices at 189C Orange Ave, they must have spent $3 million doing the blueprints. I've actually touched those blueprints and turned the pages on those blueprints in those offices, Chris, if you're wondering. $3 million was spent. Now, we reached out to the guy. We don't believe he was involved. He had a contract. He finished his contract. He's got paid. But, is he going to get ordered to pay back some of that money? Well, he's another tradie. Well, he's not a tradie. He's an architect. He's done $3 million worth of, office renovations. I've been in those offices. They literally stripped back the frames to the metal frames, and that money, I believe, will be gone. It'll be interesting to see if they can claw that back. I don't think they can, but who knows? And about $4 million on charitable donations. So that's where the money's gone to a certain degree. The regulators allege, what's that word? Allegations turn the image on its head. Investors' money was helping fund everything that made Goliath look successful to investors. They were feeding the monster. Then there were the dashboards. According to the SEC, investors were given access to online portals showing account balances, transactions, and purported investment performance. The agency alleges those metrics were fabricated. Investors could also see information presented as crypto holdings, wallet activity, and liquidity pool transactions. And this is where it really does, the rubber does hit the road. Now, there's a guy, if any New Zealanders are watching that, they'll know that I'm talking about bow repairs, and that's where the rubber hits the road. And it was commercials that went through the 80s and 90s.
And it was when the rubber hit the road. I'm going to actually see if I can find that because it's so funny. It was Bow Repairs. I'll see if I can find the commercial. Bow Repairs, when the rubber hits the road. Let's see if I can find an old commercial. Is it going to do that? When the rubber hits the road. I'd love to find it. When the rubber hits the road, a year ago. No, but it was a commercial that was playing in the 80s and the 90s, and it was called Bow Repairs. And she had the rubber at the road. Now, let's see if we can find this.
Hi there, students. Where the rubber meets the road, where the rubber hits the road. Okay, this is a metaphor talking about the business end of something, the bit.
No.
And when you start your legislation to solve this problem,
it's so funny.
I would like to.
I'm just going to go to this. I want to find it because it was so funny, but I don't think we're going to find it. But it's Bow Repairs was something I grew up with, but it was an old saying where the rubber meets the road. If I put NZ, it would probably be better at doing it. But anyway, it doesn't really matter, but I think you get the idea. It's basically like, yeah, what a shame I can't find that in a hurry. That was always quite good. Anyway, so, it's actually quite sad, just seeing how this all played out, because I think a lot of people that watch my YouTube channels and the replays are really there to get some sort of closure or understanding, or maybe they live in there in hope that there's going to be a big pile of money sitting somewhere, and there is going to be hope that there's 10%, 20%, 20% of the money that might be able to go back to investors. Because otherwise, all these people, I think we're up to the one that we looked at today. I think it was, I'm just going to bring it up again because it is actually horrible to see. But if I have a look at this one here, this claim was just put in the other day. So it's a claim. Now, the claim numbers aren't quite right. And I'll explain why that is. So here's a claim, and it's 489. Now, some people have put two claims in. They put one in for Wyoming, and they put one in for Florida, because on the 3rd of September, Christopher shut down the company in Florida, which we reported on. And basically, they reopened in Wyoming using the same registered agent, which is Harry J. Samuels, and Nadia Bringus, the bookkeeper for Goliath Ventures, also did the same. In fact, she shut her company down on the 2nd of September and reopened it on the 3rd of September in Wyoming. There was a day with her not existing. But what I'm saying is 408 people have put in a proof of claim. Why would people put in a proof of claim? Because they're hoping that there's going to be some form of recovery. And all the scams that we've been busting since we've been doing this, when you go to my website, you can see that my Avengers have helped me come up with the amount of money that we have exposed. So far, I've got 3.4 billion. I've never seen any money come back, not once. And I don't mean to say that horrible. We've invested over 300 scams investigated. I've got over 1,200 people. I tell you what, 300 people are from Goliath Ventures, persons of interest, people that we believe were involved in some form or the other. We've gone into scam meetings, and we've disrupted 3,000 scam meetings. And now we are putting a number on it that even we don't know is accurate. I know I've exposed at least $3.4 billion worth of scam. Christopher is responsible for at least 400 million. But I've never seen people get their money back, even though we've seen 480 plus people put in a proof of claim. There might be a few double ups. That's what I was getting. So let's just say 400 individuals are hoping that there's going to be some money left. They saw the 12 sports cars, and they saw $37,000 be recovered from sports cars that cost $900,000, or $460 for a Rolls Royce Ghost, and only $37,000. Now with the property, we're looking at maybe $4 million may be recoverable. And then the jewelry, we believe that a lot of the money was moving around Goliath Ventures with Rolex watches. 18 Rolex watches
Christopher theoretically had. Each of them could be worth anything from $10,000 up to $250,000. We've heard that he's got an apartment in Dubai that potentially had 50 to 100 Rolex watches. Why wouldn't Christopher hand those back, or why would he deny they exist? Because if he does, he's going to be in breach of his plea deal, where he's hoping not to get a 50-year prison sentence. He's hoping to reduce that by being helpful. You know, there's so many things that we see. So that's why I want to learn about how these scams operate. I want to learn, what does someone like Christopher realistically get for stealing 400 plus thousand million from mum and dad investors? Does he get 50 years in prison? Does he get a Bernie Madoff got 150 years in prison? Why? Because he went after 401ks. Each 401k you go after gets 30 years in prison. So he went after people's 401ks. Christopher, through Matt Burks, went after people's 401ks. What is the co-conspirators going to get? The people like Matt Burks, Piers Curry, who are meant to be regulated financial advisors, who let their license lapse 3 years before they got 3 years ago. They were licensed. Now they're not. Now they're working for a company called Black Block, not to be mistaken as Black Rock. And they set up a company called My Wealth MD, not to be mistaken as Wealth MD, another legitimate company. And they were set up to defraud people. We have video evidence of elderly people claiming they were using the services of My Wealth MD. Anyway, I diverse. An investigator could have received a payment. Sorry, an investor could receive payment, log into a dashboard showing other profitable months, attend. Actually, one of my investors, a $235,000 investor, gave us full access to the back end of Goliath Ventures, and we did a recording and put it online. When we went into the online portal, we could see that they got them to upload documents like driver's licenses and passports, and even in this particular case, this guy's wife's documents. Now, these documents were blurry. You couldn't actually read them. So even once we got access to the portal was even set up not looking like proper KYC details. It was ridiculous. But when we got access to it, we thought, oh my goodness, people think this is something. But this is what we're talking about right here. They gave people reassurance by giving them a place where they could log in to a dashboard showing profitable balances. They could attend an elaborate event. They could hear from trusted directors that everything was working as promised. Each piece appeared to be confirmed to others, but none of those things independently proved the underlying investment activity. Now, it comes to mind if I go to my own YouTube channel, and if you haven't been looking around, I do quite a few shorts, and the shorts are little clips, and I think there was a clip in here where I had Mike Shilinsky, this one here. Have a listen to this.
Your money should be.
Let's see if I can get it coming to place. It's me, my meal.
Your money.
There it
Your
is.
money should be processed as a refund. Is it because the Bank of America account got frozen, and that's why their delays for the refund, or what is the actual reason that their money hasn't been refunded as we requested if they're not investors at this exact moment?
Yeah, no, I refund, distribution, withdrawal, whatever category you wanna call it. But yeah, no, I understand that. Yours should have been just a simple send the wire back. We did push that all to this distribution window of December, which I was told everything was going to be active and ready to go. Unfortunately, on Saturday, Danny did close this Bank of America account too.
So here they are, directors, Goliath Ventures telling other investors. So here's Mike Shilinsky telling people that Danny froze the Bank of America account. I didn't froze the bank account of a $18 million bank account. I just showed Bank of America what was going on. And we were suspicious that the Bank of America was allowing these transactions to go through and weren't doing proper KYC checks on large amounts of money that were going into that system. We got told by the Bank of America staff that they were there was $100 million worth of transactions in that account. How did that account get so much activity? That's why there's some lawsuits around these bank accounts, how people in the bank were turning a blind eye to these transactions. So here's Mike in here, lost. He did $35 million worth of investments for Goliath Ventures and took the money, now living in Dubai, claiming he's a fake agent, a fake trader. He's a day trader, and I don't want to get distracted, but you got to actually think that these guys here, we've got, if you go to my post in my YouTube channel, Mike is currently in Dubai claiming that he is a day trader and is very rich. So look at this. This is another trader, not Mike. This is Mike now living in Dubai today. Well, I think he might be back from Bali, I'm not sure, claiming that he's got a G-Wagon, a BMW motorbike, and a Rolls Royce in the garage. Over here is another influencer claiming that he's a successful day trader with the same BMW motorbike, same Rolls Royce, same van, and same G-Wagon with the same license plate number. So these guys are living, a lie. And when you go to my other lives that I've done, you actually see that we've actually exposed Mike and also what he's done.
We're still a university.
So we go back to...
Because some of the ignorant.
See if we can keep the same name. I don't know if we can find it in a hurry.
I know somebody's...
Actually, referral affiliate page. I'm actually going to show you because I want to make sure we have that information correct. If I go to my YouTube channels, we go to videos. We should be able to go through... am I doing this right? I think I am. Mike. Where's Mike? Mike. Yep, there he is. So AI trading Mike. So this is how stupid. So if you look at this and think about what I'm about to show you,
I almost lost my job. And I want you to really sit with that feeling for a second. Because if you've ever been in that position, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The moment you realize that your entire income, your entire life depends on someone else's decision. Someone else decides if you keep your job. Someone else decides if you get paid. Someone else decides if your family eats. You have no control. None. And that feeling, that helplessness, is one of the most terrifying feelings a person can experience.
So this is Mike right now.
Even when it feels hard, even when you feel like you're not progressing fast enough, trust the process, stay in it. And here's my promise back to you. I will be there with you every step of the way throughout this entire journey. I am not just going to help you understand trading. I'm going to help you build a stronger mindset, more discipline, more self-awareness, more emotional control. I'm going to help you become a better version of yourself, not just as a trader, but as a person, because that is what this is really about.
2 minutes in.
The income will come.
Here we go.
Life that you can live.
Here we go.
That you are not just signing up for a course. That you are not just right to wonder business around convincing you that I'm successful. I'm already wealthy. I have my luxury cars. I live a luxury life in Dubai. In the last 4 years alone, and
there he is with Tomo in the yacht with Andrew Tate.
Traveled to almost 50 countries. And I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just showing you the life that you can live. I have the life that most people are working toward. And none of that came from selling courses. You are not making me wealthy. I already am. I got rich through trading.
I got rich through trading. So this guy is a co-conspirator. He worked for, he had no money when he went to Orlando. He met Christopher. Christopher gave him, he just hung around Christopher and got paid. He brought in $35 million for Goliath Ventures. And when it all went pear-shaped, his family now hate him. He's taken off to Dubai, claiming he's a day trader, making unsubstantiated claims. And I just showed you, when you look at this, these videos, you can see that he's just making lies. So why shouldn't this guy be held accountable when he comes back and gets his passport stamped every 6 months that he has to from Dubai? In fact, if I had all the time and the energy and anyone that wanted to help us, we would report what he's been doing in Goliath to Dubai authorities. And if anyone wants to dedicate a bit of time and energy into help us do those reports, then he would actually could potentially be taken out to the desert. Just saying. But, that's what these guys are doing. So these co-conspirators have received $174 million of your money, are still living the lifestyle that they claim that they are rich beyond their wildest dreams, fudging it until they faking it until they get success. Now I've got a dog out there that's barking his little head off, and I'm going to go tell him off. And in the meantime, I'm just going to play a song for a second because I'm home alone today, and I want to basically play this song here, and I'll go get this dog in. It won't be a second. Who got the money?
Who got the money? $425 million. More than 1,300 investors. The SEC says it was a Ponzi scheme. The CFTC traced 397 million. And then they found another number.
I think Pixel needs a walk.
$174 million.
So it's a pretty cool song. I'll put that in the chat room. Okay, so I've been missing the chat room today, guys, but I am reading some of it. Snitches are lower than yes, fiddlers. Danny, do you think they are going to go after? I actually think I do. I actually cannot think my whole job would be worthless if I didn't think they're going to go after people like Christopher. I'd rather a Western prison than somebody going to prison. Yeah, I know. So I do believe it, and I solely believe that they will go after these co-conspirators. And I think we're all holding the gauntlet, waiting for something to happen. And I just can't wait. It's going to be a cool day. I'm hoping it's going to happen after Christopher's sentenced, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be in America when it does happen, even if it's a couple of months away. Because when I was in America, they filed the civil cases. They had 3 civil cases, and then that was all about Nick Petrillo and a whole lot of other people that were trying to go after Christopher. And then when I got home, they filed the federal case, and that's when things started to get exciting. So let's hope that there's a federal case coming out, one of those boys. I mean, when you think about it, what's going on when this guy, like I just showed you before, is claiming? I mean, I'm sorry, but, this guy here, I mean, can you imagine this? I mean, look at this. This is a guy who has sent me a whole length of, excuses.
Can you wonder why everyone trusts me? I make money from trading.
I make money from trading. He does not make money from trading. The scam is he gets a commission from every time somebody deposits money into the trading platform. And we just did a big investigation about this, the True Trade platform that he actually has done. And I don't want to, lose focus on what we're doing, but I can't help myself to a certain degree. But if you are thinking that Mike is making money from trading, he's given you the illusion. So what I'm saying, that's total deception. Even though he's been part of bringing in $35 million for Christopher Delgado and Goliath Ventures, he hasn't stopped. And he's still preaching lies. If you come here, you go through here. So here's Mike, the True Trade Review. And this was a whole, another 8 hours of my life I'll never get back. But if you look at this, you can actually see that how the scam is that he's doing at the moment. And in here, it's the True Trade platform. So here's the trading platform that he wants people to sign up for, so that when you deposit money into here and you trade, he gets a commission. And I've written a whole blog about it, and we've done a whole video about it. So these guys are just the bottom feeders on the planet. I have still got to do, I'll try to do it this week, but I want to go through his video that we've now got access to, this video here. I want to go through every part of his trading strategies, which I've already been told by reliable sources that his trading technique, which I've asked people to do, and if you want to have a look at this, I will give you the link. But his trading techniques are old-fashioned. They are suitable for 2005 traders, but not the modern world that we live in. So somebody's going to go through this and give me a breakdown of his theories. I've just come up with some amazing software, what is going to enable me to do some amazing shit. I'm going to show you, because it's software that is under. So if I come down here, I think it's called Uniscribe. All right. So I'm logged into I go to my dashboard. I now go, I can paste a link, and the whole, searching. So here's the whole Mikey AI trading course. and I go transcribe. So now this whole, was it YouTube blocking this download request, automatic YouTube risk download service? Oh, right. Automated YouTube risk controls. Yeah. So that's interesting. So I don't know how to do that one, but what I will do is I've got that video. I will now upload the MP3. How do I explain this to you guys? The software I'm using here, you can actually get it from my website, but it's amazing. I don't know if I can show you this. I think I can. Yeah, I can. So if I go to the Onyx Reserve, so this was CoffeeZilla's investigation that he did on the Onyx Reserve. So I've put this software in here, and look, listen to this.
This is Rand.
Danny's a young up-and-coming fighter. You don't want to see one of your guys get taken advantage of.
That's right. Randy got involved by pure luck.
So
Eric targeted someone else, a fighter.
The MP3 version, the sound file, has actually been transcribed, and I'll do that, and I'll break down every part of Mike's training sessions. I will put it into this program, and then I'll transfer that data into. So if you can imagine it from my perspective, when I used to transcribe videos last week, I used to just get the text, and ChatGPT had to determine who was speaking and when. Now, in Mike's case, it's all Mike, so not really relevant. However, when I'm doing other stuff, I can now listen to, Randy's voice clip.
Huge spike up, but
see, and it can distinguish the difference between speakers.
Because we're tracking one vehicle, Bitcoin only.
Yeah, and look, Stephen,
are you going up?
I mean, it's just brilliant. So that's where we're going with at the moment. But let's carry on. So this is why the lifestyle marketing and financial dashboards matter so much, because like this, the illusion does not depend on one lie. It depends on creating enough apparent evidence that people stop questioning the machinery underneath it. So everything's there for an illusion. In Goliath's case, the federal regulators now allege that the lifestyle, the payment and account information all help create the appearance of profitable investment operation. The next question is, what happened when the appearance finally became impossible to maintain? When the money stopped and the explanations began, by late 2025, September, the most important dictator of Goliath, is it dictator? Dictator of Goliath?
Indicator
of Goliath's financial condition wasn't a dashboard, a private jet, or a presentation. Investors were no longer receiving distributions as expected. So when the money stopped, the scam starts getting to people's brains. They realize, I've got no money. And everything started hyper compounding. But people still believed that hyper compound was real. What followed was expectations suggesting that disruption was temporary. Exit strategies, we call it. Investors heard about banking and compliance issues, and they were getting NSB licenses, and eventually a supposedly third-party forensic audit that was delaying payouts. Remember that? It wasn't Matt Burks. They reckoned that they had an independent auditor. The first question that we asked as investigators is, what's the name of the forensics company and who's doing the forensic report? And that's what they told people, and that's what they always do. No one listened to that either, did they? The new regulatory complaints tell a very different story. According to SEC, by November 2025, Goliath could no longer raise new investors' money quickly enough to continue paying existing investors. Christopher, he said they needed $3.5 million a month. And once we froze the $18 million Bank of America account, they were basically up the stream without a paddle. The CFTC alleges customers were supposedly told payouts were delayed because of forensic audit, when, according to its complaint, no such audit was actually underway. No shit, Sherlock. The distinctive matters. The audit suggests monies were being temporarily held while professionals verified accounts. It gives investors a reason to wait rather than panic, demand repayments, or question whether the principal still exists. I watched those explanations unfold while investigating Goliath Ventures, and at the time, the central question was never whether we were witnessing a temporary liquidity problem or something much more serious? Says Christopher Delgado later provided his own account of what happened, and that's what happened when we watched Darlene Jones. In his post-arrest interviews with Darlene Jones, he acknowledged Goliath continued accepting investors' money while serious problems developed, while management hoped its proposed investment technology could eventually rescue the business. So Christopher was hoping that they could have come up with liquidity pool trading, even though the only example that he had of liquidity pool trading that he thought was genuine was My Liquidity Partners, which was blown up as a Ponzi scheme and everyone lost their money. Here he is now claiming that his hope to trade people out of this was him developing what they alleged was working, the same software. So it was more double down batshit crazy stuff than you'd ever imagine, especially if you know nothing about crypto like me. We could still see what was happening. When I first started investigating Goliath Ventures, we did not believe that NLP had much to do with it. It was only one of my persistence Avengers. Thank you very much. A fish that swims with no wings. A bird that swims in the ocean that doesn't have wings. No. A bird that flies in the ocean that doesn't have wings. Don't know what that's called, but you'll know who I am. Anyway, they kept on telling us to look at NLP. When we did look at NLP, the striking resemblance was just batshit crazy. I still remember the day that we told Homeland Security that they need to focus on NLP. We literally informed them that we had information on NLP and we wanted them to investigate it and show them our findings. When Jones challenged him about the source of money being used to pay investors, she described it as robbing Peter to pay Paul. Delgado responded, at this point, yeah. So they was literally admitting on camera, maybe that's one good thing coming out of the interviews. That admission is particularly significant when placed inside what regulators now alleged about the final months of Goliath. In February 2026, according to the CFTC complaint, Delgado told Goliath directors that the money was ceasing all operations. The company was ceasing all operations. It explained the explanation had ran out. They've no longer left anywhere to turn, even though things like Eric Clayman sent out a newsletter telling people that they were 80 days in to getting their MSB registration and they needed 10 more days before they got that registration license, and then funds were going to continue. So Eric Clayman, you wouldn't know, is a defense attorney who was writing contract law. So that's everyone that signed up for Goliath signed a contract that had been written by a defense attorney. And the defense attorney was Eric Clayman, who was also an investor. He was then using the same MailChimp database because we had all the MailChimp's letters. And he sent the last hurrah email out telling everyone to calm the farm, which showed that Eric Clayman had access to Goliath Ventures newsletter system, which was password protected. So when we call Eric Clayman a co-conspirator, he had access to everyone's email address within that MailChimp database. Crazy. Anyway, okay, so what investors had initially been presented was delayed payments, banking problems, and audit, are now described by federal regulators as much simpler terms. Goliath could no longer bring enough new investors to keep the system going. When Goliath tried to silence my investigation, now this is the part that really hits home to me, because I do realize it was David and Goliath when I listened to this. But at the time, it was like playing tennis. You just had to hit the ball back and wait for a response, knowing how lawyers work and how court systems work. I was racing to the finish line. They were racing to the finish line, and it was a game of cat and mouse who would get there first. There was one section of the CFTC complaint that hits considerably closer to home than everything else in the document. Now, it was page 12 under the heading, Defendants Attempt to Cover Up the Fraud by Making Further Misrepresentations. The CFTC introduces someone it defines simply as journalist number one, otherwise known as me. The investigative journalist was me. I began publicly investigating Goliath Ventures in 2025 and raising concerns about what I believe were the characteristics of a Ponzi scheme. I wasn't doing that with the benefit of hindsight. Goliath Ventures hadn't collapsed. Christopher Delgado hadn't pleaded guilty. There wasn't an SEC or a CFTC complaint sitting in front of me explaining where the regulators alleged hundreds of millions of dollars had actually gone. I was asking these questions while Goliath was still operating. So it was like an active investigation. I called this ages ago. We called it ages ago. And Goliath came after me. The CFTC records that on the 9th of September 2025, Goliath's attorney sent me a cease and desist letter threatening defamation proceedings. According to the regulator complaint, the letter declared that Goliath is and has always been a legitimate company, not a Ponzi scheme. So you can imagine this. So here's the actual cease and desist letter on the 9th of September. Danny DeHeck, my address, and then it's here. It's telling me that all my findings are actually, and this is what they even talked about knocking me off at one stage, so I heard. But here's the cease and desist letter. Go and read it to your heart's content. Threatening defamation proceedings. According to the regulator complaint, the letter declared that Goliath Ventures has always been a legitimate company. The letter went further. According to the CFTC, it asserted that Goliath and Delgado had complied with appropriate laws and declined that money was coming from new investors was being used to pay existing investors. 13 days later, September the 22nd, so 21 days into my investigation, Goliath followed through on the threat and sued me for defamation. So they were putting a legal case together. You can go there and you can read that there. This was 129 pages, and this was meant to intimidate myself and the Avengers. You can go read the complaint and what they were. And if you go through all this here, you can go through here and you can read all the claims that I was making on LinkedIn, private jets, luxury villas, celebrity photo ops, all this sort of stuff. So it was quite scary at the time, to be honest. Everything that I had been publishing on LinkedIn was actually brought up. Even here, that was meant to be Jason Cirillo fighting with two clawbacks. So everything we've done here is now in the public record, which is actually pretty bloody good. Right, the lawsuit, again, declined that Goliath was operating a Ponzi scheme. It defended the company's guarantee of an investor principle as being supported by legitimate business practices and fidelity bond coverage. Now look at the CFT. Now look at what the CFT alleged immediately afterwards. Defendants knew the foregoing statements in the cease and desist letter complained they were falsely made. So defendants knew the foregoing statement in the cease and desist letter were falsely made. The sentence fundamentally changes the significance of what happened to me. This is no longer simply a recollection of being threatened and sued by a company I was investigating. The United States federal regulator has now placed the cease and desist letter and lawsuit inside a section of its complaint significantly tied to defendants attempting to cover up their fraud by making further misrepresentations. So this is in the the CFTC stuff. It's brilliant. I can't get any better than that, guys, except they could have named me. Anyway, that distinguished matters. The CFTC alleges Goliath deployed no customer funds into the liquidity pools. Customers had been promised. So what CFTC alleges Goliath deployed no customer funds into liquidity pools. Customers had been promised. Used approximately $87 million in customers' funds to make payments to customers. So $87 million was paid back to customers. So that money there, hopefully, is not net winners. Transferred approximately $174 million to directors and staff, offered as recruitment commissions, and Delgado's misappropriated approximately $48 million. So all the figures are there anyway. It's already, you can go through that and add it up in your own time if you like. Yet while I was Yet while I was publicly questioning what was happening, the response wasn't immediately verifiable evidence showing hundreds of millions of dollars deployed into crypto pools. So I don't know if I've read that right. I don't think I need to read it again. But basically, the money wasn't going where it was meant to be. It was a legal threat. When it was a lawsuit, then it was a legal threat. Then there was a lawsuit, and according to the CFTC, the representations used to support what response were false were being made. I'm not reading very well. I'm getting a bit tired actually. The timing makes it even more significant. The CFTC alleges approximately 838 traced from consumers' wallets were used to purchase a yacht. Now, this is the part I didn't read yet. Sorry. So 838 was traced from customers depositing was used to purchase a yacht. We never knew he had a yacht, but he must have a yacht in Dubai, perhaps. Or I thought he might have used that money to maybe pay for the yachts for, what do you call it, for Andrew Tate's boat. So I don't know if you've seen this before. It's the first time you hear, because Christopher and all those boys were actually on these yachts. And I thought maybe the yacht money was him, paying for these yachts to show he's the man for Andrew Tate. Or maybe one of those yachts is Christopher, but you wouldn't buy one of those for that much, would you? Anyway, so that's a different story, but you can have a read of that. That was quite amazing. Anyway, what else have we got here? So, traced the customer's deposits used to purchase a yacht in September 2025. The same month, Goliath sent a cease and desist letter and filed a lawsuit against me. Within weeks, distributions to investors were becoming delayed. By November, customers were told about a third-party forensic audit. The CFTC now alleges no such audit was underway and that Christopher did not have sufficient funds to continue making the payments customers were expecting. I didn't include this because being sued somehow proves everything I said about Goliath was correct. I didn't include this because being sued somehow proves everything I said about Goliath was correct. Evidence does that. So it was so cool. Okay, so the evidence proves I was right. No. Nor does it mean every allegation I made about every individual associated with Goliath is now somehow being proven. There's still more to come. Individual responsibility still requires individual evidence. And that's why we're going after people like Tomo, Mike, all those boys, Steve Davis, Steve Panzak, Punic Shaw, Harry J. Samuels, Nadia Bringus, Gary Rice, all those people that have been associated endorsing bad behavior. But on the central question of whether Goliath Ventures was operating a Ponzi scheme, the landscape has now changed dramatically. I spent months investigating Goliath Ventures while being told publicly and through lawyers that what I was saying was wrong. I was sued for describing something as a Ponzi scheme that the CFTC Commission is now expressing alleged was, especially alleges was a Ponzi scheme. I don't know why the alleged word's there, but anyway. And buried on page 12 of the federal complaint is now part of the history of how this investigation unfolded. And journalist one was me. So you got that. I think we got that. So who else could be held accountable? I'm getting a bit tired here, but I want to read this because it's just what I do. Christopher Delgado already pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and money laundering. But his guilty plea does not answer every question about responsibility from what happened at Goliath Ventures. The SEC and the CFT actions currently name Goliath Ventures and Delgado. They do not establish whether every director, employee, or recruiter who received money committed fraud. So no one else has been charged. Some may have genuinely believed the investment was legitimate. Bullshit. And many of themselves have suffered substantial losses when Goliath collapsed. Oh, the poor beans. But the deeper someone was involved in the operation, the more important the evidence surrounding their conduct becomes. The CFTC complaint gives that question new significance because it alleges approximately $174 million in customers' funds was transferred to Goliath directors and staff, often as commissions for recruiting new customers. Elsewhere, the compliance specifically identifies payment to Goliath personnel who successfully recruited customers as one of the ways customers' funds were allegedly misappropriated. So it acknowledges the co-conspirators, but we've got more to come. And the CFTC is not merely asking the courts to look at Christopher Delgado's personal spending. Amongst the remedies sought, the commission asked for
disgorgement.
Disgorgement of benefit retrieved. Was that right?
Derived.
I'm actually going to read some of this with the computer because I'm tired. Let's go.
Directly or indirectly from the alleged violations, including salaries, commissions, loans, fees, revenues, and trading profits. Significantly, its requested relief also refers to third-party transferees and/or successors, while seeking an accounting of funds received and paid in connection with the operation. That makes following the commission trail particularly important. Receiving a large commission does not, by itself, prove someone knew they were participating in fraud. The more important questions are what that person knew, when they knew it, what they told investors, and whether their conduct changed as problems inside Goliath became apparent.
Yeah, and that's why I asked Dante last week when he was yelling at us on the internet, at what point did he realize it was a scam? And it was the last week. Like, oh, really? Well, we took 2 minutes to read the contract and we come up with the conclusion.
Internal communications, meetings, payment records, recruitment activity and conversations with investors could potentially help establish those distinctions. Delgado himself has already pointed fingers. During his post-arrest interview with Darylene Jones, Delgado claimed decisions about continuing Goliath involved other senior people and stated, "It was myself, Nick, and Matt Burks. We all knew what was going on."
See, I'm looking at this here, right? So we got to the stage where we saw money. We saw the receipts. I'm just seeing if I can find it. It's Christopher at home, Christopher's cars, Christopher. But yeah, we saw. So let's just think about this logically for a wee bit. So Christopher had people putting money into an Excel sheet. They were chopping up the money and delegating it out to people. And then these same people were thinking that in between there, Christopher was, here we go. Christopher was, I think it'll work. I'll just see if I can get that going. There it is. Now look at this. This is the database of Mike Shimlinsky. And this, I had to blur out all the numbers. But this is $35 million worth. This is just his database. And we could see all the names of all the people that were under him. Okay? And we put this online. And how he could see the percentages that he was getting, the percentage the person that referred them was getting. How could Mike look at this and not see any incoming money coming into the platform other than from new investors? Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, this is batshit crazy. There's no way anybody in their right mind would look at this and go, oh, how much money did we get from liquidity pool trading? Oh, we got 5 million in this month from liquidity pool trading. Rightio, let's divvy up the 5 million and pay out everybody. But instead, they had a fixed fee for everybody to get the money. And if you think of it like that, how can they guarantee that everyone's going to get 3%, 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%? Punic Shaw had a 7% club. Think about it. How could they guarantee that money and not know this was a scam? You know, when we've got videos of them just divvying up the money, it's absolutely batshit crazy. Delgado himself had already pointed fingers. During the post-arrest interview with Darlene Jones, Delgado claimed decisions about continuing Goliath Ventures involved other senior people and stated, it was myself, Nick, Matt Burks. we knew what was going on. So here he is throwing his mate on the bus. That is Delgado's allegation. Whether it's true or not, who knows?
Allegation.
It's not proof of wrongdoing by Nick Petrillo or Matt Burks, but I disagree. And neither man responsible would be determined simply because Delgado named him. Because I don't trust Delgado. He's a thief. He's a fraudster. He's not an honest person. But it's precisely the type of statement investigators can test against bank records, internal communication, testimony, and extraordinary amounts of money regulators now say move through Goliath's recruitment structure. If they're making a claim that money's been going through the recruitment structure, they must have proof that the money went somewhere. There is other reasons that questions have become more significant to me personally. Now, we know that we had the FBI knocking on Nick Petrillo's door. We know that a lot of people that we've been talking to that are associated have also been questioned by the FBI. So why would they be questioned by the FBI if they weren't investigating something? The CFT now alleges that when I was publicly calling Goliath Ventures a Ponzi scheme in September 2025, the company responded with a cease and desist letter, and when a defamation lawsuit containing representations of defendants knew were false were being made. I don't know quite what that said, but you can have a read of it. That raises a broader question about knowledge throughout the organisation. Who knew? Yeah, so they all knew that I was getting sued. I get what it was saying now. So if they knew I was getting sued, wouldn't that create suspicions? If they carried on promoting it after the fact, then wouldn't they ask those questions? Wouldn't you go back to your boss and you go, hey, look, our company's been accused of running a Ponzi scheme. Can you clear some matters up for me? Are they all that stupid that they thought they would just keep promoting and believe in Chris, who's drinking more money than a ball chip? Anyway, who knew the liquidity pools? Who knew the liquidity pools weren't operating as represented? It's not rocket science. Who knew where the investors' distributors were actually coming from? Not rocket science. Who knew about the company's financial condition when payments began slowing? Well, Mike, we just showed you a video where Mike was said, we were told this. And who continued reassuring Eric Clayman or recruiting investors despite having access to information about those investors that those investors didn't? So we know that people signed up in September. So these people had all the suspicions. They knew there was a lawsuit. They knew that they was being charged or accused by me, and they still recruited. Are you that stupid? Those questions cannot be answered simply by putting everyone associated with Goliath into the same category. They have to be answered persons by person and transaction by transaction. Meanwhile, Goliath's bankrupt proceedings, continued assets are being identified and sold. The transitions may face further scrutiny as professionals attempt to recover money for creditors and investors. The SEC is seeking disgorgement and other relief, while the CFTC is seeking retribution, disgorgement, civil monetary penalties, trading and registration bans, and a permanent injunction. A bit late now, but anyway. Delgado's criminal sentencing also remains ahead, 21st of October. And despite everything that has happened, the investigation is far from finished. We now know considerably more about the scale of Goliath, how regulators alleged the money moved, and how the appearance of legitimacy was maintained, and how even now how the company responded when its legitimacy was publicly challenged. What remains unanswered is how far responsibility extends beyond Christopher Delgado. That's what we want to know. His co-conspirators, what we've been talking about, and they're talking about co-conspirators. And look, I know these government departments are government departments, right? But I also know that we've been talking about co-conspirators since day one, just about. So I believe that these co-conspirators are now being talked about because of our continually talking about them. They have to act on what we say eventually because we've got too much more evidence than you can poke a stick at. That's where I believe the next chapter of Goliath Ventures investigation lies, not in another photograph of a Lamborghini or another story about a yacht, which I'd like to see, but in the financial records showing who received the money, what they did to earn it, what they knew, and when they knew it. Christopher Delgado has admitted his role. Now the 175 million money trail may tell us who else has questions to answer. Isn't that amazing? Hey, if you don't know about us, all our research is open source intelligence. We go through the receipts. If you don't know who I am, I'm Danny DeHeck. I'm a YouTuber. I've got a podcast. You can book time with me. I'm available for speaking arrangements. I've been featured on CoffeeZilla, 4.3 million now. A Bloomberg documentary. I've been in news.acom. It's Australia, which is over the ditch. They call me Australia's biggest scam fighter, which is really nice. Been in the press, Guardian, ABC News, New York Times, Radio New Zealand, even the Otago Times, and a few others. So if you do go to my website and you're looking around for things to do, you want to help support the work that I've done. I have not received one donation today, which is okay, but I'm not doing it for the money, but it certainly does help the time and energy I put into this investigation. Across the top here of my website, you will see different news articles that I've been in. It does give me credibility. So if you are a news company and you want to write about me and give me credit where credit due, I welcome being interviewed by news agencies. Everything I do, I publish. Today, I've published this article on the Onyx Reserve. I've put my neck out on the line here. I'm exposing Eric McNeil and Tommy Shields. I believe they are running a large-scale Ponzi scheme and scam. The format, the template of their company versus what's happened with Goliath Ventures is basically identical. And the biggest thing that they've done wrong is they had Matt Burks as operations. They wrote me an email, and then I responded. They wanted me to take down their name from the Goliath Ventures investigation. Instead, I gave them the opportunity to respond to some questions. They failed. Months later, we saw them publishing a newsletter about their new this is their new update, stage 2. They're now claiming they're real estate investors, and they're making outrageous claims. CoffeeZilla has already exposed them in a video, so we've asked them once again to answer the questions. A month went by, crickets, nothing. So we've exposed them for who they are, scammers. These are people who have taken money from sports players, and they could be running the same type of investment opportunity that Christopher was, taking new investor monies to pay old investors, keeping the illusion alive until we run out of people to invest. This is a ticking time bomb. This is day 1. This is my 1st of September, and this is the 14th of August when we started exposing Onyx Reserve. Not Onyx Reserve, the Onyx Reserve. There's already a cigar company called Onyx Reserve, and it just so happens their version of it is the Onyx Reserve. So they always do it every single time. They pass off other people's names, and it's just, if you go there, you're going to be looking at an impressive looking website. The Onyx Reserve, capital, culture, passive, venture, real estate, you name it, they've got it. You come down here, they're going to have things like crypto bull runs. They're going to have testimonials from people that the ironicness of this one here is unreal. These testimonials are from sports players. Now, one of the sports testimonials is actually from a guy that was featured in CoffeeZilla's investigation. This guy here. So this guy has got a testimonial about, how he's helped them meet people, but, then he was being, you have to come back next week. So this time next week, I'll be doing another deep dive into the Onyx Reserve, and I'll be showing you our findings. Oh, Nev, don't do that, mate. No, let's stop it. I'm not talking about you, mate. That's very generous, and thank you very much. I'll give you a like, and I'll say thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's very generous, but you don't need to. It's just keeping it all going. I'm exhausted at the moment. I am so tired.
It's hard work busting these scammers, and the risk I take obviously is out there. But you know, but if we can stop somebody from losing 500,000, maybe one day somebody who was just going to part with 500,000 might actually decide to be a philanthropist and invest in the AAA, which is the Avenger Anti-Fraud Alliance, whatever it's called. Oh, thank you, Nev. That's really nice. Thank you very much, mate. There we go. We'll see you in the next video. I'm Danny the Heck. I'll chop up this video and make it into a smaller version for those people who don't want to watch me for 4 hours and 36 minutes of my life. I record things live. I find it better. I think it's a bit unique. And then I chop it up and launch another video after I've chopped it up, of course. All right. See you guys in the next video. Thanks, Nev. And I love the new logo. It's looking like I think you fixed it. You fixed it, didn't you? Did you fix it? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at Nev's logo. Whoops, I just clicked the wrong button. Thank you for everyone in the chat room. And it was really interesting when we had all that other stuff going down. Oh, it's not fixed. It looks all right in the small dot, but I'm just looking at the big one. I'll just see. No, it's just been a bit naughty. But oh, maybe it is right. Maybe it is right. Maybe it's me. No, it's not. No, that's not quite right. Anyway, it's all right. Let's leave it. Let's leave it. See you guys in the next video. I'm Danny the Heck, and we are the Avengers.
Who got the money? $425 million. More than 1,300 investors. The SEC says it was a Ponzi scheme. The CFTC traced 397 million. And then they found another number. $174 million. Transferred to directors and staff. So now there's only one question. Who got the money? They called it Goliath, said the giant couldn't fall. Crypto liquidity pools were gonna make it all. 3% monthly, 36 a year. Guaranteed principal made the risk disappear. The dashboard showed profits, the statements looked clean. Private jets and supercars completed the dream. Christmas at the Four Seasons, champagne in the air. If everybody's getting paid, why would anybody care? But behind every number was a question nobody knew. Were those liquidity pools actually doing what they said they'd do? Now the SEC says the answer is clear. Not one investor dollar was invested there. The money came in, the payments went out. The lifestyle got bigger while nobody asked how. Who got the money? Where did it go? 425 million, now everybody wants to know. 87 million paying customers, 48 million on the CEO, 174 million to directors and staff. So who got the money? Follow it and we'll know. They weren't selling fear, they were selling trust. Friends brought friends because somebody must have checked the contracts, checked the trades, checked the wallets where the money was supposedly made. Delgado called it Orlando's Cool Kids Club. The influential came around and everybody looked up. Doctors and businessmen, connections and names. Every successful face added fuel to the flames. Directors recruited, commissions were paid while the appearance of prosperity grew every day. But a commission doesn't prove somebody knew. That's why the money trail matters now. What did they know? And when did they know it too? Who got the money? Where did it go? 425 million, now everybody wants to know. 87 million paying customers, 48 million on the CEO, 174 million to directors and staff. So who got the money? Follow it and we'll know. Then the machinery started running dry, and suddenly there was another reason why. Banking problems, delayed withdrawals. A forensic audit was supposed to explain it all, but the CFTC now alleges that audit never existed at all. By November 25, according to the SEC, new money couldn't arrive fast enough to feed the The obligation's already waiting at the door. The illusion couldn't finance itself anymore. And while investors waited for answers to come, the numbers underneath were finally coming undone. September 9th, cease and desist. Legitimate company, not a Ponzi scheme. September 22nd, they filed a lawsuit. They tried to silence the questions instead of answering them. But lawyers can't change bank records. Luxury can't manufacture profits. A dashboard can't create liquidity. And a lawsuit can't stop the money trail. CC says 425 million. CFTC says 397 million. About 87 million paid to customers. About 48 million attributed to Delgado's personal spending. And approximately $174 million transferred to directors and staff, often as commissions for recruiting customers. Now tell me, who got it? Who got the money? Where did it go? 425 million, and we're following every road. Forget the Lamborghinis, forget the private show. The biggest story isn't only what Christopher Delgado stole. Follow every payment, every commission, every name, because when the music stops, someone has to explain who got the money. What did they know? Who kept recruiting while the whole thing started to fold? Who got the money? Who helped it grow? 174 million reasons to keep following where it goes. Christopher Delgado pleaded guilty. The CFT has filed. The CFT has filed. The bankruptcy continues. But there's still names, there's still payments, and there's still questions. Who got the money? 74 million. Follow the money. Follow the money. Follow the money.